A very good morning and a warm welcome to Newsroom here on this Monday. Jeez, it's a blue Monday out there, Kendall.
It's a fantastic Monday. Quite a lot happening in the world of sports over the weekend, but we've got a massive week ahead of us as well.
A massive weekend, of course. We're talking about tomorrow. The Gupta's situation in terms of their citizenship is going to be discussed in Parliament. In fact, it was supposed to be today. We believe it's going to happen tomorrow. But we're asking the question today because the Home Affairs Department have got to explain as to why did the Guptas get their citizenship in the country. So that's why we're asking this question on the poll today. And the question, should the Guptas' South African citizenship be revoked? That's the question we pose to you. 257 votes in Kenya.
A lot of votes, lots of traction. This particular question is getting already an hour in, and we've got 84% of those votes saying yes, their citizenship should be revoked, and 16% say no.
And what are you telling us? Mahafa says, definitely yes. They've done enough damage to this country. We are tired of seeing them on headlines every day. Guptas must fall, he says.
Barry Martin says Gupta citizenship, yes, the Gupta's South African citizenship should be revoked because they have illegal South African citizenship papers.
This one from Ronnie says, they have looted enough. It is time for them to go back to India. These are some of your comments. Please keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But we also have a focus on irregular expenditure, Kendall. Lots of money being wasted out there with municipalities, shot up by 50% from the previous year. And that's why we're asking this question to you this morning.
We want to know from you, how does irregular expenditure affect service delivery in communities?
Especially your community. We'd like to find out. Let's see what you have to say. Magrob says, ask the mayor of Mfuleni municipality in the Vaal spent over 1.1 million rand on KFC and Nando's.
Onuka Christian says it makes service poorly delivered. It breeds corruption and a squander mania. Thus, to everyone, disappointment.
Well, there you have it. How does it impact on you on the ground? That's what we want to know. We'll read your comments during the course of the program.
Yeah.
Goes at her again, straight over her head.
And we want to find out from you. South Africa's women's cricket team beat Pakistan by 3 runs at the weekend. And the men, the Proteas, lost their T20 match against England by 19 runs. And we also look at how SuperSport United defended the Nedbank Cup title, beating Pirates by 4-1. And finally, the Springboks whitewashed the French with another massive victory. And with that, we're asking you, of all those 4, Elvis, what was your sporting highlight of the weekend?
Yeah, it was a busy sporting weekend, wasn't it? And all of those, I can tell you, was probably mine. But I didn't watch all of them. But it was a great sporting weekend, so we want to know from you. This one from Sitsaba. He says, Pirates is not doing well. I need some new players now. I want them.
Onuka Christian says, hooray, SuperSport, you made it. I predicted it on Friday. Congrats, boys.
Well, it's a lot of unhappy people out there. Barry Martin says, congratulations to the Springboks. Great work, guys. And yes, probably that's why Eben is not here this morning, because he was very adamant that Pirates will bounce back.
You know what? He's going to be in tomorrow, I'm pretty sure of it. And I will remember everything that I wanted to say to him, Bagania, that he is.
Well, that's where we got to leave it. Let's get into our work now this morning. Start off with your headlines. The second inquest into the death of political activist Ahmed Timol is to start in the Johannesburg High Court. The man charged with the murder of an Eskom employee, Tembisile Yende, is expected to appear in the Springs Magistrates Court. Dignitaries and heads of state are expected to attend the memorial and funeral service of the late former Botswana President, Sir Masire, this week. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get there, let's get to Kendall with the sport.
Those are the winning runs.
Well, the Protea women show big match temperament as they pull back from the brink, beat Pakistan women by 3 wickets in the ICC World Cup match. And in the meantime, the men's team loses the 3-match T20 series against England 2-1 with a 19-run loss on the same day.
But it's England who've come through strong here at Cardiff. It's a shootout at the Swallow. England have come through.
The coach and captain of the side, SuperSport United, are the Nedbank Cup champions.
SuperSport United break Orlando Pirates' hearts again, successfully defending the Nedbank Cup trophy with a 4-1 thumping of the club from Orlando.
Laat ons gaan na Gambonge. En Rudy Pike is weer.
The Springboks whitewashed the French in the mid-year incoming tour with a first-time victory against Irregular at Ellis Park. All this in more detail we've got for you at 10:40. Do stay with Elvis because he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. A second inquest into the death of political activist Ahmed Timol will start in the Johannesburg High Court today. That's more than 45 years after his death. Timol died in apartheid-era police custody in October 1971. The police said that he committed suicide by jumping from the 10th floor of the Johannesburg Central Police Station, then known as John Foster Square. The inquest at the time found no one was to blame for his death. Amongst those expected to testify are Advocate George Bezos and Dr. Salim Isop. Timol had been arrested along with Isop by state police after being caught with the ANC and SACP literature. Now, members of the public have 4 days left to nominate persons to serve on the new permanent SABC board. The deadline for nominations is Friday. The SABC is currently being overseen by an interim board for a period of 6 months. It was appointed after the former board was officially dissolved in March following the outcome of a parliamentary inquiry into its fitness to hold office. Nominees will undergo a shortlisting process followed by interviews. The successful 12 candidates will be appointed by the President after the final approval of the National Assembly. 2 men accused of killing a 16-year-old boy, Motlomola Moshweu, at Colini in the northwest are expected to appear at the local magistrates' court this morning. Peter Doorwaard and Philip Skutte were arrested in April this year and later granted bail of 5,000 rand each. The 2 men say that they were driving the 16-year-old Moshweu to the local police station with their bakkie when he allegedly jumped off and broke his neck. Moshweu's death sparked riots in Colini, with residents taking to the streets and looting and burning buildings. The decision to release the 2 men on bail was fiercely opposed and criticized by the community, leaders from the provincial government and several political parties, including the African National Congress. The man charged with the murder of an Eskom employee, Tembisile Yende, is expected to appear in the Springs Magistrates Court east of Johannesburg today. David Ngwenya was arrested in Carltonville earlier this month. Yende was found dead in her office at an Eskom plant in Springs last month after she had been missing for almost 2 weeks. Her body was found with a black plastic bag wrapped around her head. A post-mortem has shown that Yende sustained head injuries and bruises on her neck before she died. When she arrived at work on the day she was last seen, the closed-circuit camera picked her up, but a few moments later the system didn't pick up any movement. Dignitaries and heads of state are expected to attend the memorial and the funeral service of the late former Botswana President Sir Masire this week. A memorial service will be held in the capital Gaborone tomorrow, followed by a state funeral at Kanye on Thursday. Sir Masire died last week at the age of 91.
President Ian Khama met the Masire family to discuss funeral arrangements. On Tuesday, his body will lie in state at Parliament ahead of his state funeral at his home village of Kanye on Thursday. A memorial service is planned for Wednesday in Gaborone.
Police are working alongside with the military because it's a state funeral with the Marafe, the tribe in Kanye, of course, church leaders, protocol, foreign affairs, etc., etc. So it's a multitasking, multi-group effort.
It is Masire who suggested a 2-term presidency in Botswana, which led to his decision to step down the following year.
He played a pivotal role in fostering democracy, in nurturing it, and encouraging the growth and development of political parties in this country. It was under his reign that many democratic electoral reforms were carried out.
He actually voted himself out of office. He introduced a 2-term presidency in 1997, and in 1998 he voluntarily stepped aside from the presidency. So quite clearly, you're talking about a Democrat, a reformist, a constitutionalist.
Former South African President Thabo Mbeki is one of the dignitaries expected to attend Sir Masire's funeral. Solofelo Matibedi, SABC News, Gaborone, Botswana.
Now today we focus on irregular expenditure and how it affects you at home and in your community, and that's why we're asking you that question on your screen right now that talks to the impact that irregular expenditure have on you in your municipality. So let's take a look at what you have to say. Let's take a look at the tweets, what you are telling us on the Twitter handle at SABC News. Let's see, where are those tweets? Here they come. This one from Katlejo says, Newsroom, if the money allocated for maintaining gravel roads ends up feeding officials in conferences, KFC, streetwise twos, that affects service delivery. This one from Mahafa says, the government is unable to finish some projects in communities like RDPs, water projects, etc. because of irregular expenditure. People are feeling it on the ground due to irregular expenditure. These are some of your comments. You can keep them coming. We'll look at those comments and read them as we continue. But let's now take a look at what is trending on Twitter today. And we start off with hashtag Eid Mubarak as Ramadan comes to an end and Muslims around the world are celebrating. There you can see many people sitting out there. Thousands of South African Muslims headed out to Lenasia for sunrise prayer this morning. And this is an image from a mosque in Gaza Strip and UK's Birmingham. Look at all the people there praying together. Then, people are talking about the hashtag Nedbank Cup final. Super Sport United showed Orlando Pirates who the real winners are when they beat them like a stepchild, 4-1, taking that Golden Cup trophy. The disappointment by the Pirate fans was caught on camera with this poor fan. Look at him. Oh, shame. That's just a terrible picture. I mean, mourning the death of Orlando Pirates on the sporting field there. And in some more sports, the Protea women's team scraped through their match with Pakistan women by 3 wickets, just making that ICC World Cup there. Look at that shot being played there by the South Africans. Now, still talking about Pakistan now. If we can move on, an oil tanker overturned and exploded in Bahawalpur, killing over 140 people. Many of those who died had run up to the tanker to try and collect some of the spilled oil, and they died. Then in Colombia, a tourist boat transporting around 160 people slowly sunk in a reservoir, leaving around 25 people dead. The search team is still looking for some who may have also drowned. It seems the cause of the accident is still unknown at this point. Now, our picture of the day, and this is our picture of the day that we can put up there. It comes from David Swab, yes, and there you see it there, the picture of the day, people celebrating Eid yesterday, right? Beautiful picture there from around the globe. Let's now take a look at what's happening in our courts here at home, and we start off with a story that caused quite a stir in the northwest. 2 men accused of killing a 16-year-old boy, Matlamola Mushweu and Kolini, are expected to appear in the local magistrate's court this morning. The teen allegedly stole a sunflower from their farm. Then, in Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape, the state is expected to call investigating officer Captain Akana Swanepoel to the stand today to testify in the murder trial of Christopher Panayoto. Swanepoel is the state's last witness before the defense has a chance to present its case. He testified on the admissibility of a sting video in which Panayoto allegedly implicated himself in his wife's abduction and murder 2 years ago. The state believes he paid Lutando Suyoni to recruit the hitman. And in Cape Town, 2 suspects are due to appear in the Athlone Magistrates Court in Cape Town on charges of illegally possessing a firearm, ammunition and a stolen vehicle. They were arrested in Nyanga on the Cape Flats over the weekend. These are some of the stories. We'll keep you updated on these stories throughout the day, so you have to stay tuned. But right now, in fact, before we just go there, let me remind you what we're going to talk about tomorrow on the show. We will be looking at the high cost of data in South Africa. Data must fall, they say, following the social media campaign that dominated social media last week. We will be joined by different stakeholders in the communications sector, so you don't want to miss that. So let's take a break right now. We'll be back right after that.
Africa is constantly getting new technologies, and with that comes new terms.
Massive, open, online university. And primarily what they are doing is they're established in the community, so they're well established within the Soweto community.
Internet of Things also covers small sensors, so you can do like home security, motion detectors, IP cameras.
On Network, we simplify these terms for you. We also have new gadgets and social media.
When it falls on the grounds and then the battery, everything falls off, people just put it all together and then your phone is back in shape.
The Volega app, we initially started off by doing this manually.
The internet is actually my favorite fashion invention of all time.
That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 9 p.m. on SABC News.
Irregular expenditure for municipalities has shot up by just over 50%. That's compared to the previous year, amounting to 16.81 billion rand for the 2015-2016 financial year. Auditor General Kimi Makwetu said that this was the highest amount since tracking of irregular expenditure began. More concerning for the Auditor General was the number that could have been higher, as a third of these municipalities stated that the full amount of irregular expenditure was not known. Now, to discuss this story further, in our Pretoria studios, we are joined by Andre Snell, the Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Deputy Minister, a very good morning to you and welcome.
A very good morning to you as well, and Eid Mubarak to all of your Muslim viewers.
Thank you, Minister. Now, the Aegis report is very disturbing. It indicates that 16 billion rand of taxpayers' money in municipalities was irregular spent. Is that alarming, you think?
Absolutely, and it's something that concerns the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs very much, as well as our partners in the quest to develop sound financial management in municipalities such as National Treasury and the South African Local Government Association. But I think it would be worthwhile just taking one or two steps back and saying, as much as that is a very, very concerning picture, we need to see it in the context of an overall improvement in the audit outcomes for local government. For the financial year 2015-16, we've reached that stage where 62.6% of our municipalities are getting either clean or unqualified audits. Secondly, and which is very, very important, is the number of municipalities getting disclaimers, which is the worst possible audit outcome, where the Auditor General is not even able to express an opinion, has gone down from 104 in 2008-9 to just 25 in 2015-16. Now, that is still 25 too many, and what concerns us in particular is that amongst those 25, there's a group of 21 who've had disclaimers for more than 5 years, and we are focusing on those municipalities. I think what's also encouraging is that we've reached that stage where out of a total expenditure within the local government sector of 378 billion rand, between 75 and 80% of that money is spent in municipalities getting either clean or unqualified audits. I think what's also encouraging is that the amount of fruitless and wasteful expenditure has gone down. The unauthorized expenditure has stabilized. What is extremely concerning is that the amount of irregular expenditure has gone up very significantly. A lot of that irregular expenditure is linked to non-compliance with supply chain management questions. So we're working very closely with National Treasury, provincial treasuries, our provincial cooperative governance departments, SALGA and the private sector to zoom in on those problems. There are a number of very concrete interventions that have already been made, such as the introduction of a standard municipal charter of accounts with effect from 1 July of this year. That will standardize the way that municipalities across the country keep their financial records. That will contribute to greater transparency, accountability, and our ability to monitor and evaluate on an ongoing basis. But I think the point that's made by the Auditor General, and this is a crucial one, is that there must be leadership, and secondly, there must be consequences.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about those consequences because the AG indicated that they don't have enough teeth to bite. Are you going to supply them with those teeth to bite those who are found liable for these actions?
The Auditor General has made some very constructive proposals that would link the work of the Auditor General to those of the public accounts committees in Parliament and the provinces, together with our law enforcement agencies. As the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, we've already taken a lead in that regard, in that we've requested from all 9 provinces copies of the forensic investigations that have been done over the past 5 years. We've analyzed those forensic investigations. We've lifted out the core recommendations, and we're liaising very closely with the Hawks, with the Special Investigating Unit and the Public Protector's Office to follow up on those. Secondly, there are those municipalities that are in a state of dysfunctionality, and very often they are the ones that are getting disclaimed or adverse audit outcomes. And we've intervened in terms of either Section 139 of the Constitution to put those municipalities under administration. And there are a number of them where we've been able to turn the situation around. You look at a situation like Western Area in Gauteng, Oudtshoorn in the Western Cape. I know that there are also a number of municipalities, both in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga, where mayors have been removed for lack of progress with audit outcomes. Mm-hmm. The Premier of KwaZulu-Natal in the past week has also sent out a very, very strong signal that mayors who do not demonstrate progress will face consequences.
Now, Minister, ironically, the most improved province was the Eastern Cape, but it was also the OR Tambo district in the Eastern Cape who was identified as the main culprit with irregular expenditure of over 1.4 billion rand. Your take on that, and how do we rectify that where municipalities are faltering?
Thank you very much. I think you touch upon 2 very, very important points. The first is that when we discuss local government, we need to be specific. Let us zoom in on those municipalities, on those issues that are causing problems, and not paint a picture that local government as a whole is dysfunctional, is corrupt, is inept. Because many of our municipalities are indeed performing very, very well. There are excellent men and women, both at a political and at an administrative level, who are working very, very hard. And that is why, over the past 7 years, we've seen the overall improvement in audit outcomes. Eastern Cape is an example of that. Overall picture has improved. The municipalities that account for the vast bulk of irregular expenditure are a relatively small number, and the Auditor General's report lists them. You have OR Tambo District Municipality, you have Nelson Mandela Bay, you have Nakamodiri Mulema, you have Mbombela, etc., etc. We need to zoom in on those specific cases, and we are doing so.
Now, the Aegis report also states that the lack of skills is one of the major contributing factors to some of the municipalities faltering. How is your department making sure that the municipalities hire people with the right skills and also ensure that cadre deployment fall?
Well, that is a core pillar of government's Back to Basics program of improving the functioning of local government. The 5 pillars of Back to Basics are putting people first, ensuring the delivery of basic quality services, thirdly, good governance, fourthly, sound financial management, and fifth is building strong and resilient institutions. And that includes appointing the right people with the right qualifications and experience in the right positions. We've promulgated regulations in terms of the Municipal Systems Act that set out very clear minimum standards that senior officials in our municipalities need to comply with. We set out very clearly what the recruitment process is, and we monitor those together with the provinces. But just to add that there are many municipalities that are facing very real problems. Those are smaller municipalities located in rural areas, especially former homeland areas. There's very little economic activity, a very small tax base. They find it difficult to attract suitably qualified and experienced officials. So we're working with National Treasury, with the provinces, but I must say that we also have a very, very positive partnership with the private sector who have stepped in to help provide training. Many of the banks are running so-called academies of excellence for municipal officials. All of those efforts together have contributed to improving audit outcomes, but there's a lot more work needed that we need to do.
I like what you said there, and I also like what you said earlier around the issue of a standard charter of accounts for all municipalities that they should adhere to. But here's the thing, the Western Cape continues setting the pace with clean audits from 73% last year to 80% 2016 of their municipalities. Can these type of positive results be duplicated, you think, in all municipalities?
Well, I think the Western Cape has done very, very well, and I think all of those municipalities that have done well, both in the Western Cape and throughout the country, need to be commended and congratulated, because indeed they are setting a shining example to follow. What we are looking at is how entities such as district municipalities can play a greater role as in acting as shared services centres, especially to help those less capacitated local municipalities.
Minister, thank you so much for your time and joining us here in our Pretoria studios.
Thank you very, very much.
Now that was the Minister, Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs chatting to us there, Andries Nel. Right now, let's take a look at the front pages of the newspapers from around the globe. And we start off with in New York. The Wall Street Journal there reports that at least 138 people were killed and nearly 150 others injured after gasoline spilled from an overturned fuel truck that caught fire in central Pakistan yesterday. And then in the USA, the Financial Times says that Italy has moved to shore up confidence in its fragile banking system after agreeing to pump 5 billion euros of taxpayers' money into 2 failed mid-sized banks while handing their goods assets to Intesta Sanpaolo, the country's strongest lender. And then finally in China, the South China Morning Post reports that the recent killings of 2 Chinese nationals in Pakistan and the rise of the Islamist jihadist movement in Asia has highlighted an increasingly urgent need for Beijing to join, international efforts against terrorism, security, says analyst. Those are some of your newspapers from around the globe. Let's now take a look at our Facebook page here at home. The city of Cape Town has condemned the torching of a My City bus in Joe Slovo near Milmerton yesterday. Mayoral Committee member for Transport Brett Heron says that the bus was allegedly attacked by a group of young people. Then the state is expected to call the investigating officer, Captain Kana Swanepoel, to the stand on Monday in Port Elizabeth in the High Court to testify in the murder trial of Christopher Panayiotou. And then finally, another inquest into the death of the anti-apartheid activist Ahmed Timol will start in the Johannesburg High Court on Monday, that's today. That's 46 years after his death. Now you can find all these stories and more on our Facebook page and our SABC News website. Let's take a look now at what is happening tomorrow. We will be looking at the high cost of data. Data must fall, they say here in South Africa, following social media campaign that dominated social media last week with a blackout. And we will be joined by different stakeholders in the communication sector. So you don't want to miss it. We want to talk about all these issues affecting especially young people that need access to data. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
Do you support the calls made by Blade Nzimande and Solly Mapaila?
It is not a call by Comrade Solly Mapaila and Comrade Blade Nzimande. It is the position of the party.
Yes.
And the position of the party, we support it unambiguously.
Why?
The theory of the revolution, in simple terms, was that revolutionary forces are going to take charge of the state. And having taken charge of the state, they are going to transform the state to eventually transform society.
Join me, Mpotsedu, live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
The Auditor General's latest local government report indicate that the poorest audit results for 2015 and 2016 were delivered by the Free State, the Northwest, as well as the Northern Cape. The Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu, assessed 263 municipalities and 51 municipal entities. The findings showed only 49 municipalities achieved clean audits, while 25 of them received disclaimed opinions. The best performing provinces with the cleanest audits include the Western Cape at 80%, KwaZulu-Natal at 18%, and the Western Cape, or rather the Eastern Cape, at 16%. Gauteng province received no qualified opinions, which was commendable. However, only the Midvaal municipality, which is run by the DA, achieved a clean audit status in the province. For more on the story, in our Johannesburg studios, we are joined by Simpiwe Zangwa, the Salga Executive Manager, Municipal Finance. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning to you.
First and foremostly, talk to us about, in layman's terms, what is a qualified audit?
A qualified audit is when the auditors have received some information presented by the municipality, but they are not satisfied that the information given gives a complete picture of how funds, programs, and compliance issues were dealt with by the municipality. So they then give you a qualified audit.
And an unqualified audit, what does that mean?
An unqualified would be when the auditors are happy in all respects, but they have picked up one or two issues of concern that they want to emphasize. So they say they've given you an unqualified audit, but with matters of emphasis, meaning that the municipal going forward must attend to those issues, but they are not material enough to disqualify the municipality.
How many of those have you identified that needs matters to attend to?
There's about 122 of those, and we do feel that they are in a good place because generally, you know, the notion of a clean audit, it's a South African concept. It doesn't apply internationally. You know, so when you are in a clean audit category and in an unqualified, that is both, you know, acceptable.
As a person responsible for municipal finances, what do you think is wrong with some of these municipalities that are not performing? I've mentioned the numbers earlier. The Western Cape is the only one outstanding, with 80% of their figures showing that they are making progress.
The Auditor General has pointed out some root causes of the situation in some of these provinces. Key amongst them is the fact that there are glaring, limitations in these municipalities in terms of putting together basic control, mechanisms. Secondly, you find that in some instances there's high turnover, and those that are recruited are not qualified, for the positions that they are appointed into. And thirdly, that there's some gaps in terms of managing consequences for bad performance. And we do feel as SALGA that those are items that need to be attended to as a matter of speed.
Lack of skills, as well as that recruitment that you're talking about, do you feel that that is one of the major issues where people are not qualified to do the job in the first place?
If you get it wrong at that level, you bring in someone who's not competent enough, then you are likely to have a problem. Because even if we come in as SALGA to try and support by building capacities, training arrangements, mentoring and coaching, but if the competency levels of the incumbent, are virtually not there, then it is a problem. Hence, we encourage municipalities that in recruiting, they must be very consistent in making sure that people do meet the basic standards that have been set.
Is that the reason why we always hear about financial consultants being utilized in these municipalities and money basically flowing out of the municipal coffers?
That's a troubling aspect, that consultants are being brought to support municipalities when there are people who are actually paid to do those jobs. That's one thing. But two, we have looked at this issue of consultants being used, and we find that sometimes they are brought into the picture very late, when it is already, the damage has been done and they can't do anything much to turn it around. But two, there are instances where consultants are brought into environments where there are vacancies. So they have no one to work with and to empower by building the skills internally. Hence, you find that year in, year out, some municipalities will rely on the consultants without making much headway in terms of improvements. And that's a matter of concern.
As SALGA, are you assisting municipalities in relation to that to make sure that they comply?
Oh, yes, we do that. Actually, we have met with quite a number of auditing firms to just talk about how they work with municipalities and how they deal with issues where municipalities are bringing them in an environment where they can succeed. Because it also talks to their reputation and brand management. And we also encourage our municipalities that when they need our assistance in terms of putting together terms of reference and managing the contract of consultants, they must shout, talk to us, and we can come in and support them in those instances.
Now, according to the report, the total disregard for procurement processes as well as poor compliance in supply chain management creates also another conducive environment for abuse of state funds. In relation to that, why is that scourge not dealt with on that particular level?
Well, this matter has to be understood properly and in a context. The Auditor General says in the report that about 117 billion is irregular expenditure. And that talks to supply chain and procurement, issues. But if one looks at it at face value, it could, easily give an unfortunate picture that resources are being misspent, when it is not always the case. Irregular expenditure, could mean a number of things. For instance, procurement regulations require that after you have awarded a contract, you must advertise in your website or in newspapers who have you given the tender to and for how much. Now, if you omit doing that, it becomes irregular. If in another instance, if I may give one more example, you have budgeted 10 million to sort out your roads situation and you have a water pollution outbreak, and you shift that money to attend to the emergency situation of water pollution, then that becomes also irregular. So when the Auditor General says 17 billion is irregular, it doesn't necessarily mean the money has been misspent. And fortunately, in a number of instances, the AG will say, out of the 17 billion that is irregular, maybe 15 billion, we can trace it and show services that we procured.
Now, talking to me about fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the Auditor General did say that wasteful expenditure, it seems there's a change there. Explain first the concept of wasteful expenditure. That is when you mentioned the example of the road, where it is being spent, but you shift that money to an emergency. But if you have to take that for a consumer at home, for a resident at home, what does it mean for them in relation to that?
Well, wasteful expenditure means basically that resources that could have been used for another, needed item are wasted. Let me give you an example. Municipalities sometimes are not so good in planning and doing projections. So you'd find that a meeting maybe is advertised and that there will be 100 people attending the meeting. So you book a venue to accommodate 100 people and you pay accordingly, and only 20 people show up. You have to cancel, the meeting. Or the catering that was procured for 100 people is now to be consumed only by 20 people. That becomes wasteful, because you've procured more than necessary. Or it is also wasteful in the sense that if you cancel a meeting, it means you didn't go ahead with it, yet you have paid for the service. That is wasteful. But so it talks to, the same planning issues and probably managing the supply chain process.
But there is some improvement in fruitless and wasteful expenditure, because the Auditor General also indicated that it was 21% lower than the previous year. Yes. So how do we keep that momentum and making sure that there's not that much of wasteful and fruitless expenditure?
Basically, it's about having a clear plan, knowing what is to be done quarter by quarter basis, but also being flexible in how you deal with your service providers. For instance, if you had secured a venue and the meeting has to be cancelled, why not indicate upfront to the service provider and make a provision in your contract that should the meeting not go ahead, we can still use the venue on another date without having to pay again for it. So how we manage, our stakeholders and our clients becomes very important in avoiding some of those things. We do encourage those municipalities that have improved to continue making that part of their culture, so that it's not a fluke that they've improved now and they will regress again next year. They must tighten up their systems and make sure that they continue doing good.
Gauteng received no qualified opinions, but the Midvaal, of course, was the only municipality with a clean audit. What can other municipalities learn from the successful municipalities?
So in a way, when you look at Gauteng, you would say ordinarily it's the #1 performing province, because all municipalities are unqualified. As I've said before, the clean audit, issue, it's a technicality pertinent to South Africa only, but all municipalities in Gauteng have been found to be up to speed in how they manage, their finances. That is very good, and I would give them, a #1 in the scale of things. 1, 2, we encourage Midvaal. They have had systems, and it's not for the first time, that they are getting a clean audit. We are worried, and we will interact with the municipalities that have regressed, such as Gorleni, Tshwane and others. And interestingly, in the instance of Gauteng, all the 3 municipalities that have regressed from clean audit are municipalities where there's been a change in leadership and where there's also been a change in the executive management, positions.
The Eastern Cape was a very bad, poor performing province a couple of years ago, but they are showing the most improved. What happened there? Is there any relation to what the systems that was put in place, or how you've assisted them as SALGA?
Well, one of the tricks in the Eastern Cape is the close collaboration between the Provincial Treasury, SALGA, the Provincial Department of Local Government, in providing support to municipalities. Also assisted by the Office of the Premier. There are standing platforms where municipalities come and present their challenges, and SALGA colleagues, go to these municipalities, visit them, and make sure that they improve. Interesting, in the Eastern Cape, one of the best performing municipalities is a small rural municipality in Engcobo. And when you talk to their manager, he says we are very clear about who has to perform what, the accountability mechanisms, getting, in place qualified individuals, but also building up our relationships with the Auditor General and SALGA to guide us on what needs to happen.
Mr. Zanga, I thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio.
My pleasure.
That was Mpiwe Zanga. He is SALGA's Executive Manager, Municipal Finances. So you heard it from government, you heard it from SALGA. We want to know from you. service delivery, has that been impacted by the irregular expenditure in your municipality? That's the question on your screen. How does irregular expenditure affect you, your service delivery in communities? Let me take a look at what you have to say on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. This one coming from Paul Umalo. It says stringent controls must be embedded on those municipalities which are not performing. Well, you heard it earlier from the minister that there will be a system in place, a general system that all municipalities must use and abide with. This one from Paul again, he says, this is an issue of grave concern which negatively impacts on the lives of poor citizens through lack of service delivery. This one from one dealer says, those in authority, the mayors and senior officials must be held accountable because they compromise service delivery. Those are some of your comments. Please keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue during the course of the day. But we're also asking you a poll, a very interesting one. As you know, Home Affairs must account to Parliament as to why the Guptas got their citizenship. And we're asking you the question, should the Guptas' South African citizenship be revoked? There you have it. Hashtag Doha. Gupta leaks Gupta citizenship. And so far we have 321 votes in. There's 22 hours left to vote. 85, that's the majority in South Africa and the African continent, are saying the Gupta's citizenship should be revoked. 15% are saying no. Let's take a look at what you are telling us on the Twitter handle. Dipantsu says, there's too much around this family. They sound like arrogant people. They've overstayed their welcome. So says Dipantsu. His guest has been here too long. Mzwa says, oh, definitely yes. They've caused enough damage to our economy. This one from Lachasa says, absolutely yes. The Guptas has done enough damage to South Africa. Enough is enough. Finish and clear, he might add to that, Lachasa. Praveen Catastrophe says, leave the Guptas alone. South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. Well, do you agree with Praveen? Yeah, if you're a naturalized citizen, of course, if you received your identity document without fear or favor. This one from Mozi says, absolutely, South African citizens have to turn on each other because of them. They must leave. We need peace in our country. Well, there you have it. These are some of your comments. We'll read the others as we continue during the course of the day. Right now, that's all we have for you for now. The weather is up next to tell us what is happening in South Africa. Let's go there.
Thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers. Let's see what's going to happen for the next 24 hours in terms of your weather. Starting off with today, partly cloudy weather in Namibia and Botswana, moving towards central parts of Southern Africa into Northern Cape and Northwest, but that will be later on this afternoon. Otherwise, we are expecting partly cloudy conditions just to the north of KwaZulu-Natal and some isolated showers north of Richards Bay, spreading north towards Maputo, southern parts of Mozambique. Otherwise, we are seeing clear skies across most of the central parts and the southern parts of the country, looking at Eastern Cape all the way towards the Western Cape. Mozambique, in the afternoon, we're expecting some isolated showers in the northern parts. With the DRC, the rainfall is moving north, more and north each and every day. Central part Zambia into Angola, clear skies for today. Tomorrow, similar conditions are expected for the central parts of Zambia, Angola into Malawi, Zimbabwe and Botswana, while Southern Africa, we are expecting some isolated showers over the central parts of Northern Cape into Southern Free State and lastly into the Eastern Cape, especially the central parts of the Eastern Cape, but spreading towards the coastal areas later on in the afternoon. Otherwise, partly cloudy conditions are expected for the western parts of the province, Western Cape, and looking at the north, we are expecting still most isolated showers over the central parts of the DRC and also along the coastal areas of Mozambique, starting the southern parts, including places like Beira, moving north towards Quiliman and Tanzania's coastal areas, still expecting those isolated showers. That is for tomorrow. Now, your temperatures are looking like this. It's cool in Cape Town with clear skies at a high of 18. Into the interior, still cool conditions over Sutherland at 18, as well along the coastal areas in places like George and Knysna. It's clear skies today with temperatures mainly in the teens. 19s. Central parts of South Africa also cool, expecting 21 for Bloemfontein, and in the eastern parts, looking at Polokwane, expecting a high of 19 with partly cloudy weather, but that will be coming in later on. Now, this is your outlook for Johannesburg for this week. We're expecting quite a cool day for tomorrow, for Wednesday at 19, and for the rest of the week, just clear skies, but partly cloudy conditions later on in the afternoons. And into the northern parts, where we're seeing a Walvis Bay at 27, clear skies into Windhoek, and last but even places like Maun, Botswana, Gaborone, where we are expecting a lot of dignitaries going to those areas. We're expecting a high of 23 with clear skies. And along the coastal areas, like I said, Nampula and Beira, some isolated showers with high of 29 in Nampula. The islands, we're expecting some isolated showers, especially along the coastal areas. There's a strip of coast, we're expecting some rainfall later on today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, expecting some isolated showers as well in the northeastern parts. Moroni at a high of 29 with clear skies for tomorrow. Now back towards the DRC, most of the rainfall is falling in the northern parts, places like Bengui into Libreville, with a high of 30 in Luanda. Kigali peaking at 27. Temperatures are quite warm along the east coast. Expecting also Mombasa at 27 with Dar es Salaam at 29. Juba still very hot at a high of 34. Into the north, where we're seeing still those very hot temperatures in places like Cairo, and with the clear skies at a high of 38. Into Agadez, very hot temperatures as well, a high of 40. Khartoum expecting partly cloudy weather with isolated showers just to the south of the capital city. Places like Addis Ababa, you can see those isolated showers with a high of 23 and cooler weather in those areas. Last but not least, West Africa, where we're seeing still partly cloudy weather over most of West Africa. A lot of the rain is just falling along the coastal areas, with Lagos at 28 and Abidjan at 29 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. Most of the interior places like Mali Mali will see some isolated showers, but Niger into Chad, we will see clear skies for tomorrow with highs of 40 in Agadez, scorching temperatures in those areas. I'll leave you weather here for now, but there will be weather updates later on, so you stay tuned to SABC News.
China and Africa, despite constant changes in the international situation, have always stood shoulder to shoulder, working together and supporting each other. In the 1950s and 1960s, national liberation movements swept Africa. The Chinese people, who had recently gained their own liberation, offered the African people full support in their just struggle against Western hegemony and colonialism. In 1956, China and Egypt announced they were establishing diplomatic relations. This made Egypt the first country in Africa to establish formal ties with the newly founded People's Republic. At the end of 1963 and the beginning of 1964, Premier Zhou Enlai undertook a tour of Africa, visiting 10 African countries in 2 months. During his trip, he set out 5 principles on which bilateral relations between China and the African and Arab countries should be founded. He also referred to 8 principles based on which China would provide economic and technical aid to other countries. His visit to Africa is still fondly remembered there today. On October the 25th, 1971, at the 26th United Nations General Assembly, the motion to restore the legitimate rights of the People's Republic of China at the UN was passed with an overwhelming majority. The announcement was greeted with enthusiastic cheering by the delegates of many African countries. Chairman Mao Zedong said, "Our African brothers carried China to its legitimate seat in the United Nations." Subsequently, as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, China has always spoken out to uphold justice for the countries of Africa. It has also defended the common interests of the African and developing countries. The African country's support for China has not only been political. When China has been in need, their support has also been economic. In 2008, in the wake of the devastating Wenchuan earthquake, China received over $10 million in donations from Africa. The president of Equatorial Guinea even dispatched his foreign minister with €1 million to help the victims. This represented a donation of over €1 from every man, woman and child in Equatorial Guinea. In 2011, after the earthquake in Yushu in Qinghai province, the Republic of Congo gave €2 million to rebuild the China-Congo Friendship Primary School. And in 2015, Equatorial Guinea donated $4.9 million for building the China-Equatorial Guinea Friendship Primary School in Jinping County in Yunnan Province. Thanks to careful tending by several generations of national leaders, the tree of China-Africa friendship continues to flourish. It has withstood the trials of the changing world and taken deep root among the people. Today, this tree is growing stronger. In the 21st century, the world faces a new situation and new challenges. The Forum on China-Africa Cooperation was founded so that China and the countries of Africa could work and develop together. In November 2006, a China-Africa Cooperation Forum Summit was held in Beijing. The scope and level of mutual development would be expanded. The unity among the developing countries would be strengthened. South-South cooperation would be enhanced, and peace and development in the world would be promoted. The 16 years since the China-Africa Cooperation Forum was founded have been a period of significant achievement, when China and the countries of Africa have stepped up the comprehensive development of their relations. Between October 2000 and June 2016, senior Chinese leaders paid a total of 166 visits to Africa. The more frequent high-level exchanges and the deepening of mutual trust have created a powerful driving force for raising the level of China-Africa relations. Notably, China and the countries of Africa have closely cooperated to promote the reform of the international economic order and to implement the agenda for sustained development by the year 2030. They've also adopted a unified approach to dealing with problems such as climate change and to defending the interests of the developing countries.
Take your evening well informed with Primetime News.
Thanks for tuning in. You're watching SABC News Prime. The burning land reform issue was also a point of discussion on the first day.
If you do not have a skills revolution, you will run into the kind of problems that we're having at the moment.
We have funded about 466,000 students, out of about 800,000 students that are in the university system.
South Africa says insufficient electricity and water remains one of the biggest barriers to development and prosperity on the continent.
The top four batsmen in the squad, Hashim Amla, Quinton de Kock, Faf du Plessis and AB de Villiers, are certainties in the starting lineup.
I really believe we cover all bases when it comes to spin bowling, seam bowling, proper pace bowling, and an amazing batting lineup.
Stay tuned every Monday to Sunday from 6 p.m.
Rights and Recourse tackles constitutional issues.
When South Africa became a constitutional democracy, we had a fairly sound legal system in place requiring the Constitution to guide the direction in which it must go and the way in which it must be refashioned.
The Justice Ministry, the custodian of human rights.
We actually have a plan to come up with a comprehensive review of our human rights instruments.
Advocates dealing with evidence.
Sometimes you have to use a crook to catch a crook. So we expected that the credibility would really be taken to task. You try and consult your witnesses and prepare them as best as you can.
Hashtag Rights with Dumila Matez on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Africa is getting more and more digitized, and people have to navigate through an increasingly connected world.
I did a call my bay over here.
At school, I use my Wi-Fi.
On Network, we tell you about Africa's technology and social media landscape.
Politicians already do use Twitter.
It's both Android and iOS compatible.
A solar-charged box that includes everything, the computer, the projector.
That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 9 p.m.
It's 10:00 hours Central Africa time on this Blue Monday here on the Newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin.
Say, it's more like a Black Monday, wouldn't you say?
Well, from a sporting perspective, perhaps yes.
My name is Kendall Makamati. Good morning to you.
Now, this morning we focus on municipalities. In fact, let's first do the poll. We're focusing on the Guptas and their status in South Africa, their citizenship status. And that's why we're asking you the question, should the Guptas' South African citizenship be revoked? That's the question we pose in the poll. So can we have the poll up? We'll come back to that question.
Tell you what, a whole lot earlier, an hour earlier, we had 257. At the opening of the show, 257 respondents on this one. I wonder how many respondents we've got so far, but we'll bring that number to you a little later.
Well, it looks like we're doing the question now first, and that's focused really on municipalities and how irregular expenditure impact on you. Michael Big M says, the Aegis report, it affects it, it is in a negative way. It leaves a big void and sets back service delivery, says Michael.
Wandi Lingeva says those in authority, mayors and senior officials must be held accountable because they compromised service delivery.
Well, you are talking exactly what the AG was saying there. The AG is saying he needs some teeth to bite these people. Paul Ngumalo says this is an issue of grave concern which negatively impacts on the lives of the poor citizens through lack of service delivery. So, we've been telling you about the poll that we're asking you this morning on the Guptas, and we're asking should the Guptas, their citizenship be revoked.
No.
So far, Kendall?
321 votes have come in already. It's quite a big jump from a little earlier. And 85% of our respondents are saying, yes, the Gupta South African citizenship should be revoked.
Well, you're also tweeting us. Let's take a look. Katlejo says, let Gigaba explain what proof the Gupta citizenship he has. They are doing as they please in our country, and Zuma doesn't even care. Instead, he's giggling a lot in Parliament.
Onuka Christian says, no, the Guptas have their usefulness. All is not about bad news. There are investors and taxpayers too. Are you sure they pay tax? They serve a good use.
Matthews says Gupta's got citizenship illegally through captured Minister Gigaba. After the DG turned them down, they paralyzed the SOEs, and Zuma is now the proxy president. Well, these are some of your thoughts. You can keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But there's a sports question.
Absolutely. We've had a massive weekend, and there were the 4 events that really stand out over the weekend. And we'd like to find out from our viewers which of the things that we're going to be showing you now stand out for you as a sporting highlight of the weekend. Starting with the South Africa Women's Proteas cricket team beating Pakistan by 3 runs in their first match at the IC Women's World Cup.
Fantastic performance there by the women.
And the women, the women do better than the men, who lose out to England. The T20 match making it a 2-1 series loss, this one by 19 runs. And of course, SuperSport United win the Nedbank Cup title again, beating Pirates 4-1. And the Springboks whitewashing the French with another massive victory, which is why we'd like to find out from all of our viewers their thoughts on those events over the weekend.
What was your highlight, your sporting moment or theme for this weekend? This one from Ricardo Peters. Springboks. It's whitewash. #France.
Nice one. France. Wandi Lingeva says, lost against SuperSport United. I'm no longer a fan of Pirates. Broken heart.
That's one of those fans that just run away after a loss, you know. McRob says, Evan's team's getting clubbed 4-1 by Matatanza. My fellow Buccaneer, wish I was still in studio with you. Coming back soon, up the buck, says McRob.
Tell it like it is. Michael Bingham's-Taller says, Nedbank Cup, Women's Cricket, Orlando Pirates, obviously Orlando Pirates, making a fool of themselves. Thanks a lot to the coach and players. We're now a laughing stock.
Pula says, Pirates needs the services of Pastor Goro. Serious divine intervention. Nothing wrong with the coach, but the players are to be blamed. Serious divine intervention needed there, yes. Kendall. Let's take a look at our news headlines. A second inquest into the death of political activist Ahmed Timol is to start in the Johannesburg High Court. The man charged with the murder of Eskom employee Tembisile Yende is expected to appear in the Springs Magistrates Court. Dignitaries and heads of state are expected to attend the memorial and funeral service of the late former Botswana President Sir Masire this week. Those are all your headlines. Before we get there, let's speak to Kendall.
Those are the winning runs.
The Pro-Tier women show big match temperament as they pull back from the brink to beat Pakistan women by 3 wickets in the ICC World Cup match. In the meantime, the men's team lose the 3-match T20 series against England with a 19-run loss on the day.
But it's England who've come through strong here at Cardiff. It's a shootout at the Swallow. England have come through.
The coach and captain of the side, SuperSport United, are the Nedbank Cup champions.
SuperSport United break Orlando Pirates' hearts again, successfully defending their Nedbank Cup trophy with a 4-1 thumping of the club from Orlando. The Springboks whitewashed the French in the mid-year incoming tour with the first-time victory against Le Bleu at Ellis Park. Of course, I've got all of this in more detail, including all those 4 goals against Orlando Pirates, a little later at 10:40. Do stay with Elvis, he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. A second inquest into the death of political activist Ahmed Timol will start in the Johannesburg High Court today, more than 45 years after his death. Timol died in apartheid-era police custody in October 1971. The police said at that point in time that he had committed suicide by jumping from the 10th floor of the Johannesburg Central Police Station, then known as John Foster Square. The inquest at the time found no one was to be blamed for his death. Amongst those expected to testify are Advocate George Bezos and Dr. Salim Isop. Timol had been arrested along with Isop by the state police after being caught with ANC and SACP literature. The African National Congress in Gauteng has opted to stay out of the ANC succession battle for now. The provincial leadership didn't put forward any name for the party's next president at its policy conference held over the weekend in Pretoria. The chairperson of Gauteng ANC, Paul Mashatile, congratulated the members for their discipline in not discussing the leadership of the ANC.
Not like it's a Q&A.
Gauteng ANC chairperson Paul Mashatile says they will continue to discuss the leadership of the ANC with other provinces to ensure a consensus is reached by December. He said the Gauteng ANC did not discuss or propose possible leaders for the ANC.
It has come to my attention that somebody was tweeting that the PEC came to this conference to present the name of Deputy President Ramaphosa, but were defeated by branches. Now, let me make it clear to everybody to know that this conference was not for that. There is no name of anybody that was presented and defeated by conference.
Deputy Chairperson of Gauteng ANC and Premier of Gauteng, David Makura, said they discussed the reorganization of the ANC to ensure its moral integrity and that it survives into the future.
What's clear is that the status quo will not remain. If the ANC is to live up to the expectations of our people to give leadership to every sector of society, we have to reorganize the headquarters first and foremost, and then reorganize the organization at every level.
Both Mashatile and Makura said the focus of the conference was to discuss policies that will help residents of the province regain their faith in the ANC.
Meanwhile, the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal says it does not subscribe to the assumption that a deputy president should automatically become the president. This came out of the Provincial General Council, which ended in Impangeni yesterday. The province will lead the largest delegation to the ANC's December conference. One of the key resolutions at the weekend's PGC regarded land reform.
On land expropriation without compensation. As an approach to achieve this, we are going to engage that the ANC should lobby all African parties in parliament to review the constitution of the country. If that fails, we can thereafter go for a referendum.
Heads of state are expected to attend the memorial and funeral services of the late former Botswana president, Sir Masire, this week. The memorial service will be held in the capital Gaborone on Wednesday, followed by a state funeral at Kanye on Thursday. Sir Masire died last week at the age of 91.
President Ian Khama met the Masire family to discuss funeral arrangements. On Tuesday, his body will lie in state at Parliament ahead of his state funeral at his home village of Kanye on Thursday. A memorial service is planned for Wednesday in Gaborone.
Police are working alongside with the military because it's a state funeral, with the Marafi, the tribe in Kanye, of course, church leaders, protocol, foreign affairs, etc., etc. So it's a multitasking, multi-group effort.
It is Masire who suggested a two-term presidency in Botswana, which led to his decision to step down the following year.
He played a pivotal role in fostering democracy, in nurturing it, and encouraging the growth and development of political parties in this country. It was under his reign that many democratic electoral reforms were carried out.
He actually voted himself out of office. He introduced a two-term presidency in 1997, and in 1998 he voluntarily stepped aside from the presidency. So quite clearly you're talking about the Democrat, a reformist, a constitutionalist.
Former South African President Thabo Mbeki is one of the dignitaries expected to attend Sir Masire's funeral. Solofelo Matibedi, SABC News, Gaborone, Botswana.
Now, for the latest on the arrangements there, we cross live to our SABC reporter Ntakwana Ngatani, who's in Gaborone. A very good morning to you. And can you tell us what is the latest there regarding the preparations for the sending off of the former president?
Good morning, Elvis. Yes, we come to you from the center of Gaborone, where behind the parliament buildings there is a book of condolences that has been opened. Dignitaries, heads of missions of countries that have bilateral relations, multilateral relations with Botswana are signing that book. Botswana in general are going there. Earlier today we spoke to an elderly lady who's in her 60s who says she worked in the Ministry of Finance when President Masire was minister there and Secretary General of the Botswana Democratic Party. But also she says that she remembers him as a man who was kind, who even cried when his predecessor President Sir Masire died, the first president of Botswana. But here with me now at the Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation is the South African High Commissioner to Botswana, and that is His Excellency Mdu Lembede. He is here also to sign the Book of Condolences like many other representatives of foreign missions here in the capital of Botswana, Gaborone. Your Excellency, welcome.
Thank you.
You have been here for 4 years. What does Masire mean to Botswana,
Masire means everything to everybody, not only to Botswana. It means a lot to South Africans. It means a lot to people in this region, and it means a lot to people in this continent. He was a well-loved man, and he loved everybody.
Now, in the time that you've been here, you're overseeing relations between South Africa and Botswana. What role are we expecting to see South Africa play at this particular time?
South Africa will always be indebted to what President Masire did during our difficult days. He's the one who opened up the doors of Botswana for South Africans to run away from a difficult situation, to come here. Some settled here. Some use this place as a conduit to go to other countries in the neighborhood. Not only South Africans, I've said this before, all people in this region, every leader you can think of in this region went through Botswana to exile, whether it was Sam Nujoma in Namibia, it was Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, it was Samora Machel in Mozambique. They all came here. President Masire protected them and made sure that they get the safe passage to wherever they were going to. A lot of South Africans have remained citizens of this country, which were accepted by him, given citizenship of Botswana, and they've stayed here throughout.
Now, who are we expecting from South Africa to attend the memorial service and the funeral?
The South African government itself has not appointed anybody in particular, but there certainly is going to be somebody representing the country at the highest level. The only person who has confirmed at the moment, not representing the government, is former President Thabo Mbeki, who said he's coming also for the funeral. So we are expecting him as well to come in and the former head of state of South Africa to bury a former head of state of Botswana.
And I said I'm going to put you on the spot for you to tell us how old do you think you were and what memories do you think you would remember of the time that President Masire was president in your lifetime?
Obviously, I was a young man then, not very young. I was about 27 years old when he became president in 1980. And in 1998, I was also a seasoned civil servant by then, and so I know about him. I know a lot about him. I know a lot about Botswana. Fortunately, even before I came to serve here as High Commissioner of South Africa, I had visited the country on a number of occasions during his rule as president. But also when I came here, he's one of the people who was very accommodating and receiving of me as a person. We had a lot of time together. He attended every occasion that South Africa hosted in this country, even up until this year. He was still attending all our. And he invited me, by the way, to his 90th birthday last year, and I was one of the guests of honor. So I knew him quite well, and I loved him.
And your message as you signed that book?
The message is simply, he must rest in peace. He has done his job. He has run his race. He has done everything he could have done for Africa, and we are all indebted to him. We will never forget him.
Thank you very much. That is South Africa's High Commissioner to Botswana, Mdu Lembede, speaking to us about the late former president of Botswana, Sir Masire, who is being remembered here by Botswana, by Southern Africans, by Africans, and by the world really, as a man who contributed not only to his people of Kanye, where he came from, his people of Botswana, but also the people of the continent. It's back to you.
And Takwana, just remind us again in relation to the memorial as well as the funeral service, the plans outlined for that.
Well, from tomorrow he'll be lying in state, Elvis. That is where everybody is allowed to go and bid farewell to the late president. But also on Wednesday, we will see a memorial service expected to be attended by probably heads of state from the region. As you heard the High Commissioner saying, some have not confirmed yet, but we expect that the Ministry of International Relations will be updating us as they confirm as to who will be attending. We know for a fact that former President Thabo Mbeki from South Africa will be attending. We have had indications that the King of Lesotho, King Letsie III, who had quite warm relations with the late president, might also be attending the memorial service and the funeral, but we expect other confirmations to come through. The funeral itself will be on Thursday in his home village of Kanye, but also books of condolences opened here at the Ministry of International Relations, at the Parliament building in front of us where we are, where we see a lot of people going in and signing that book of condolences. Books of condolences opened all across Botswana and in foreign missions all around the world. So anywhere you are really, you can go and send your message to the people of Botswana, to the family of Masire during this time. Elvis?
Thank you so much for that report. That was SABC reporter Ntakwana Ngatana live from Gaborone. Let's move on now. Members of the public have 4 days left to nominate persons to serve on the new permanent SABC board. The deadline for nominations is Friday. The SABC is currently being overseen by an interim board for a period of 6 months. It was appointed after the former board was officially dissolved in March, following the outcome of a parliamentary inquiry into its fitness to hold office. Nominees will undergo a shortlisting process followed by interviews. The successful 12 candidates will be appointed by the President after the final approval of the National Assembly. 2 men accused of killing a 16-year-old boy, Mahlomola Moshweu, at Kolini in the northwest are expected to appear at the local magistrates' court this morning. Peter Doorwaard and Philip Skitter were arrested in April this year and later granted bail of 5,000 rand each. The 2 men say they were driving the 16-year-old Moshweu to the local police station with their bakkie when he allegedly jumped off and broke his neck. Moshweu's death sparked riots in Kolini, with residents taking to the streets and looting and burning buildings. The decision to release the 2 men on bail was fiercely opposed and criticized by the community, leaders from the provincial government and several political parties, including the African National Congress. The man charged with the murder of the Eskom employee Thembisile Yende is expected to appear in the Springs Magistrates Court east of Johannesburg today. David Ngwenya was arrested in Carltonville earlier this month. Yende was found dead in a office at the Eskom plant in Springs last month after she had been missing for almost 2 weeks. Her body was found with a black plastic bag wrapped around her head. A post-mortem has shown that Yende sustained head injuries and bruises on her neck before she died. When she arrived at work on the day she was last seen, the closed-circuit camera picked her up, but a few moments later the system didn't work and it didn't pick her up. The countdown has started for the Mandela climbers heading for Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. The group hopes to summit Africa's highest peak, Uhuru, on July the 18th, Madiba's birthday. They had their final preparation stint in the Drakensberg over the weekend. The aim is to raise funds for sanitary pads for needy girl children.
The majestic Drakensberg. Any hiking enthusiast's dream, and the final hurdle for these trekkers. The Drakensberg is an ideal training ground for climbers to test their physical endurance. The 24-kilometer hike will take them to an altitude of about 3,000 meters above sea level. It will also gauge for possible symptoms of mountain sickness. The picturesque tourist trail, deceptive. Several grueling high-intensity snags, their fitness and stamina tested.
Very easy. It was like, I remember when the first time I came to Drakensberg, it was so difficult.
We were at such an incline, and just trying to get a grip on your, every step was pretty tough.
Junkie Chris Dippenaar is pushing boundaries.
I am courageous.
His skilly attempt will require even more skill and endurance.
Ek vir die ouens gevra het gesê luister hier, so kan ek my fiets Kilimanjaro toe vat.
I asked the guys if I can take my bicycle to Kilimanjaro. They looked at me weirdly. I researched if one can do it, and it is possible. After much persuasion, I am carrying my bike up the mountain and riding it down.
Mense se arms draai het ons op die einde van die dag gaan ek my fiets opdra Kilimanjaro toe en ek gaan hom afry.
This year's trek will be dedicated to race driver Guguzulu, who died while trying to summit last year. His widow, Letseho, is climbing in his honor.
It's an incomplete journey. So that's why I'm going back. I'm going back to do something that Gugu and I always wanted to do as a couple. To honor him. You know, the best way I can honor him is to continue living and living up to our dreams.
The group will be departing on the 12th of next month. Julian Pillay, SABC News, Drakensberg.
Well, let's go to stateside now. Beyonce, yes, Beyonce came out tops at this year's BET Awards in Los Angeles. The Lemonade star, who skipped this year's ceremony after giving birth to twins a week ago, won 4 on the night, including Album of the Year. Bruno Mars walked off with 2 wins, including Best R&B Pop Artist and Video of the Year, while a 24-year-old rapper from Chicago was honored with the BET's annual Humanitarian Award. Shawn Bryce Peace was at the ceremony and sent us this report.
Well, about a 4-hour-long ceremony of the BET Awards here in Los Angeles ended a short time ago, and because BET has exclusive rights to the ceremony and the visuals, we're unable to show you video from inside the ceremony, so I'm going to try my best to give you a summary of who won what, when and how. The big winner on the night was Beyonce. Beyonce had 7 nominations. She walked away with 4 awards: Best Female R&B Pop Artist, the Viewer's Choice Award, her Video of the Year Award, and the Album of the Year for Lemonade. Bruno Mars, the most successful male on the night, winning 2 awards after having 4 nominations, including Best Male R&B Pop Artist. Bruno Mars, of course, also opening the show. Quite an extravagant performance, as he's becoming famous for. The Best Group went to Migos. The Best Male Hip Hop Artist went to Kendrick Lamar. The Best Female Hip Hop Artist to Remy Ma. The Best New Artist went to a very young rapper from Chicago, Illinois, Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper also scooping the Humanitarian Award, handed out. That award, of course, going to Jesse Williams last year. This year to Chance the Rapper for the work he's doing in trying to uplift communities in the inner city of Chicago. He donated a sum of $1 million for after-school programs for poor children in the Chicago region. So, in the Chicago region. So, a wonderful tribute to a 24-year-old musician who was inspiring a number of the older entertainers in the room. Of course, the BET Awards are not only focused on music, they also focus on film and entertainment, sports. The Best Actress Award going to Tarajai P. Henson. The Best Actor Award going to Mahershala Ali. Mahershala Ali, of course, also winning the Best Supporting Oscar earlier this year for his role in the movie Moonlight. The Sportswoman of the Year to the pregnant Serena Williams. Serena Williams, of course, taking a break from playing tennis, former #1 in the world, or current #1 in the world, taking a break as she nurses the baby inside her belly. The Best Act from Africa, just to recap, of course, going to Nigerian sensation Wizkid. This is his 3rd BET award. The Best Act from Europe going to Stormzy. And, of course, our very own Yvonne Chaka Chaka walking away with the Global Good Honour that was given to her early Saturday morning. A number of performances that we can reflect on, among them Bruno Mars, as I mentioned, Mary J. Blige. You know, the BET Awards is very much a concert as much as it is an award ceremony. DJ Khaled, Chris Brown bringing the house down, Future performing, and the icon Maxwell also performing tonight. There was also a heartwarming tribute to some of the artists who died in the last year, including a warm tribute to George Michael. And then the Lifetime Achievement Award went to a group called New Edition. New Edition making a name for themselves in the 80s with songs like Popcorn Love, Mr. Telephone Man, Candy Girl, just an awesome tribute to them. And the BET Awards also like to reflect reflect on political commentary and social justice. And there was certainly enough of that in the room, reflecting on injustice, police brutality in the United States, particularly directed at minority communities, and also a moment of silence for those who have died due to brutalization in the United States. So clearly a broad spectrum of music, entertainment and political commentary here at the BET Awards, and hopefully that gives you a good sense of what happened inside the arena. Of course, exclusive rights to BET that will broadcast the entire show in South Africa on Tuesday night on their channel at 8 p.m. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, Los Angeles.
Let's stay with that event. The 17th Black Entertainment Awards, or BET Awards, has just ended in Los Angeles. And while the music takes center stage, the occasion is used to also shine a spotlight on issues of social and political consequence in the United States today. Our correspondent again, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, caught up with a number of stars who walked the red carpet, including South Africa's own nominees and honorees, to talk about music, entertainment and politics.
Right now it's pretty hectic, man. There's so many people out here getting work done. We're doing a red carpet, meeting wonderful people, taking pictures. Everything's all good.
It's a wonderful opportunity to network with some big names in the music industry. How are you finding that? How are you traversing, you know, this new area in your life?
I'm excited. I'm just like honored to meet them, man, because it's definitely people that I'll need in the future, people that I could definitely work with, build healthy relationships with, you know, making great connections, man. I really love it.
What role do artists have in this kind of political environment we're living in the United States today?
I think it's just important to talk about our reality and not just the glamour of entertainment, you know? I know I did a song this time called Stand, and it's just saying if we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything. And I just felt like this is not the time to be silent, you know, as artists. And I think it's been exciting to see people that aren't used to being political just come up and, you know, be motivated to get involved.
Well, I think that this country right now, as much as people want to say it's divided, I think that we're all finding moments of, you know, coming together and bridging the gap. And I think that that's important. And I think a lot of people are using their voice when it comes to politics more so than years I've seen. So I'm happy about that. I do think that we need change immediately. You don't call me. You don't call me back. I text you. I'm just kidding.
What are you most looking forward to? Is this your first BET?
No, it's my third.
So what are you looking forward to? Because you kind of know what's going down tonight.
Yes, I am looking forward to DJ Khaled because, you know, he is performing and he usually brings all these cool people, and, you know, I'm very excited about that.
I'm a big fan. I mean, what season is Blackish in now?
This July, this season will be 4.
And the show is just growing and growing.
Thank you.
And it's an interesting name for a show in the current political environment that the United States finds itself in. Just speak to that, if you will.
Yeah, no, it's something that, like I've said so many times before, this show took off to a point where we didn't even know it was going to resonate like that, you know, and to touch so many different people and not make it a black show. It's just a show, you know, and for so many people to resonate with, it's been a blessing.
So you've got an album coming out soon. Tell us a little bit about that.
An album coming up in a week's time, and I'm just so grateful that everybody who's been listening to it really loves it, because I'm my West critic. It's been a couple of months I've been in the studio, and I just wanted it to be perfect.
Tell us about some of the songs. I mean, what does it speak to? Is there a message?
Well, of course. My music always has message. One track that I love, I love all the tracks. There's 10 tracks. I've done a collaboration with Berita, a collaboration with Nomsa Mazwai, and Ali Kiba from Tanzania. There's one track that's called Pardon Me. It's inspired by that little girl who died in the sea. You know, so much has been happening to our people, and our people want to leave Africa and go to Europe, and they're shutting the doors on them. So I'm saying to them, pardon me, you know, give me a chance to live. Be my friend, hold my hand.
Well, that's your news for now. Let's get back to our theme. Of course, we're asking you that question, which is very pertinent, and it relates to you. At home, in your community, is service delivery being impacted by wasteful expenditure? That's the question we pose to you. How does that irregular expenditure affect you in relation to service delivery? Now, the Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu, has painted a grim picture of municipalities in South Africa in the 2015-2016 report released last week. A total of 49 out of 263 municipalities received clean audit opinions for the past financial year. 14 municipalities lost their clean audit opinions. Only 9 joined the category of clean audits. Irregular expenditure has increased by just over 50%. You heard it, 50% to 16.8 billion rand. The Auditor General reported limited improvements in the audit results for the past financial year. Now, to talk to us about the challenges facing municipalities in South Africa, the rot that came out of that report, and about his dealings with municipalities around the country, we are joined by the Chief Executive Officer of Zandile Management Services, Mr. Fikile Bili. Sir, a very good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
First and foremostly, I want you, from your perspective, we heard government's perspective earlier on and Salga's perspective, your picture of the state of municipalities in South Africa.
Currently, the cause of problems in municipalities is the rotten fruits of cadre deployment. Political parties deploy people because they belong to certain camps, or they take mandate from certain individuals, not from their political party. Now, I've come across municipalities where you find you are working on a supermarket as a cashier. They don't mind to convert you into a mayor. From a salary of 3,500 to 60,000 and to a new kickback of 100,000, that person will never recover. We need to put academics in municipalities. I am challenging the African National Congress to encourage councillors, as from January next year, to go to school, to have courses of diplomas and degrees, so that when their political career comes to an end, they shouldn't be disgruntled and cause disorderly situations in the township, because these people don't join municipalities because they have capacity. They join municipalities because there are no proper systems. They join municipalities because they are looting the state resources, the money that was supposed to go to the people, the resources that were supposed to deliver services. People are pocketing money in their pockets. Just because you are popular in the township or in your region or in your area, it doesn't make you automatically a mayor. We need to vet these people properly. We need to make sure that they have the qualifications and the capacity to lead South Africans as a rainbow nation.
So it's your contention that the state of municipalities in South Africa is rotten to the core. Now, earlier, we spoke to the Deputy Minister, who indicated that the picture is not as dire as perceived, and that there are green shoots of less wasteful expenditure and responsible municipal management. Is that your view as well, especially looking at what you are dealing with? There's a particular mayor you want to tell me about in Mpumalanga.
Look, I don't agree with the Deputy Minister because they are not on the ground on a daily basis to understand the dynamics in municipalities. You know, I do data cleansing on municipalities. When I ever ask the municipality, can I start with the staff? They say, no, don't do the staff, because I know some staffs are not qualified. You know, you can see when someone is deployed based on a mandate. So I don't agree with the Deputy Minister. Municipalities, we need to get accounting firms that will put systems in municipalities to monitor transactions, to monitor appointments, to monitor delivery. On the issue of the mayor of Mpumalanga, I was so shocked and surprised that in a municipality in Gertsibanda district, there's a mayor called Mr. Nkosi and his chief whip and speaker, who took a resolution that since they are owing ESCOM, every resources that belongs to Msikalikwa is going to be done by the people on the ground. No project of water, meters, electricity are going to go out there to someone who's not going to empower the locals. And the mayor took a resolution with his council that as from soon as probably under this budget financial year, they are going to deploy vending systems in the township in Gertsibanda to allow the community to sell electricity. And then I asked myself, why you do this, Mayor? He said, why should a big corporate get R1 million? I can share that R1 million amongst my people in the township and create permanent jobs instead of handouts. Then I said, you know, sometimes not all mayors are corrupt, not all mayors are useless. There are mayors out there with capacity, but it's from Mpumalanga. I've worked in that province before. I know it's quite a very stable province politically. So I'm not surprised the idea and the concept the mayor from Msikalikwa came up with.
Perhaps he's looking at radical economic transformation for his people on the ground.
No, he doesn't look at radical. There's radical economic transformation and radical stomach transformation. He's looking at radical community empowerment. You understand? He's a mayor who doesn't talk about dynamics and resources and balance of forces. He's a mayor that talks about the mandate he was given by his political party to serve the people and to so that the people must get the service delivered.
Tell us about your experiences in dealing with municipalities and what are the major challenges that they are faced with?
To be honest with you, if I had the capacity to advise the Minister of Corporate Governance, I would say to him, let's not choose people based on their popularity. Because some of them, you find a municipal manager who's an academic, now must be given instruction from a politician who's not an academic. And the municipal manager who's an academic are forced to do things that are way, way beyond the rules and regulations of local government. So at the end of the day, I'm requesting to political parties to ask people of their qualifications and their capacity and experience. You can't take someone from being unemployed to a mayor. You know, ask yourself, why are people shooting each other for councillor's job? That person is unemployed. When he thinks that to go and sit in the council chambers twice a month, I get 15,000, he is willing to do that. So I am saying to South African government, please, let's make sure that we receive CVs. Those people must have local government background. Those people must have community background. Those people must be skilled in all aspects of requirements like communication, etc. In order so that when they go to the masses, they must know what is required for them to serve the people. For example, now, the budget is out. You won't believe me. Some are already sitting and discussing who's getting this tender, who's not getting this tender, which is wrong. You know, we need to empower our people. Municipalities are the pride of the people. Municipalities are the nearest government department to the people. If you want to remain in power in politics, you must please the people on the ground because they are the voters, not the politicians. So if political parties don't go back and clean their municipalities, they will lose power because people are very disgruntled. People don't receive services. There is water sewage out there. There is no water reticulation and sanitation. People need to go, politicians need to go and do groundwork and ask the people what are their needs so that they must serve the people better. They must forget about their stomachs.
Mr. Bilia, thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, there you have it. That's the state of municipalities and the Chief Executive Officer of Zandile Management Services, Fikile Bili, on the challenges facing them. Now, we're asking you that question, of course, that relates to you. How does wasteful expenditure and irregular expenditure impact on you in your community? That's the question. Please let us know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. Let's take a quick look at what you are telling us. This one coming from Michael Big M Setole. He says, the Aegis report, it affects it, in a negative way. It leaves a big void and sets back service delivery. IG says the government is unable to finish some projects in communities like RDPs and water projects, etc. because of irregular expenditure, exactly what Mr. Bili just indicated. Paul Ngumalo says this is an issue of grave concern which negatively impacts on the lives of the poor citizens through lack of service delivery. Katlejo says, if the money is allocated for maintaining the gravel roads, ends up feeding officials in conferences and KFC streetwise tours, now that affects service delivery. I hardly agree with you there. One dealer says those in authority, mayors and senior officials, must be held accountable because they compromise service delivery. There you have it. Those are all your thoughts, not mine. And you are telling us how that impacts on you as a community. Hashtag irregular expenditure. Let's go to sports with Kendall Makamate.
Elvis, thank you very much. Good morning to you. We start off this sporting bulletin by talking about the cricket, where England have won the 3-match T20 series against South Africa by 2 games to 1. The English defeated a woeful Proteas comprehensively by 19 runs in the third and final match in Cardiff, Wales.
The Proteas won the toss and invited the English to bat first in the series finale. And it was David Malan on debut who answered the call for England. Malan notched up a cheeky half-century in his maiden appearance, clubbing 78 runs from just 44 deliveries. He shared a 105 runs second wicket stand with opener Alex Hales, and the home side was cruising on 127 for 2 in the 14th over. But just like in Taunton on Friday night, where the Proteas snatched a 3-run victory, South Africa's seamers, Dane Patterson in particular, bounced back at the death. Patterson scalped 4 wickets in quick succession as England lost their last 5 wickets for just 15 runs. Patterson's career best 4 for 32 saw the English finish with 181 for 8 in their 20 overs, a somewhat of a pass score on a batting wicket at Sophia Gardens.
This is an exhibition in death bowling.
But the Proteas didn't get their chase off to the best of starts. Reza Hendricks was the first to go, departing for a duck, while the promotion of Chris Morris didn't pay off as he was out for 8 a few overs later, leaving the tourists in a bit of trouble on 22 for 2. JJ Smuts and captain Nebi de Villiers brought some momentum to the innings, but Smuts was scalped for 29 and de Villiers for a cameo 35 from 19 deliveries, leaving South Africa on 84 for 4, still needing 100 runs from 54 deliveries. When South Africa's premier T20 player David Miller was dismissed for 7 an over later, an English victory was imminent. Mangaliso Moshele and Andile Peshlohwayo provided some late resistance, but it was too little, too late for the visitors. England sealed a 19-run victory to take the series 2-1, as the Proteas only managed 162 for the loss of 7 wickets. Samantha Mari, SABC News.
But it's not all doom and gloom, I tell you. South African women's cricket team have won their opening match of the 2017 ICC Women's World Cup hosted by England and Wales. The Proteas women survived a late fight back from Pakistan's bowlers to record a 3-wicket win at Grace Road Cricket Ground in Leicester, England.
Looking to take advantage of the cloudy weather conditions, South African captain Danie van Niekerk won the toss and elected to field first. Labelled a team to beat in this tournament, South Africa wasted little time to get going, Marizane Cup with the first wicket of the contest in the second over. The Proteas women continue to impress with the ball, restricting Pakistan to a run rate of more than 3 runs per over halfway through their innings. Things did not get any better for Pakistan, losing 3 wickets in a space of 8 overs, including that of Bibi Nahida, to leave them on 163 for 6 after 42 overs. Pakistan went on to add 43 more runs to finish their innings on 206 runs for the loss of 8 wickets after 50 overs. Just like with the ball, South Africa impressed with the bat, the opening pair of Laura Vulvard and Eliza Lee contributing more than 100 runs to South Africa's required target of 207, the latter scoring a half-century in the process. Shabnim Ismail scored 3 boundaries in the penultimate over as South Africa edged Pakistan in a close finish to open their campaign on a positive note. In their next match, South Africa will take on New Zealand on Tuesday. Joseph Mohali, SABC News.
And that, unfortunately, is where we're going to have to leave it with the sports, because the second inquest into the death of political activist Ahmed Timol has just started in the Johannesburg High Court. Let's go there live.
Also mandated to investigate cases relating to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, not so. You were specifically requested to open an inquiry into the tragic death of Ahmed Timol. Is that not so? That is more or less, when was that, Captain?
That will be the 2nd of November 2015.
Before you worked with the matter, was there any other unit, other people, or other institutions like the TRC working on the matter?
Before I started, there is a TRC to work with the matter throughout the schools.
Okay. Since this case has been allocated to you physically, what did you do?
I built a first manual. Here's a copy of the inquest. That was downloaded from the University of Rotterdam historical papers website. The downloaded list documents consists of pages 783 to page 1157. And at the very latest stage, we found out that there is another 110 pages or so available on one copy of this information.
So a copy of the inquest record was obtained at that specific. With leave of the court, I'll ask that that copy of the inquest record, my lord, at this stage be accepted as volume A, my lord. Volume A. Was there any annexes, any statements, any affidavits that you could obtain, Captain?
My lord, there is also annexes, consistent part of the J56.
Before you proceed, Captain, volume A, what's the contents of volume A? Just the record of the inquest. Yes. Mr. Vani, you have any objection to the submission? Okay.
No objections.
Yes. Okay, the record of the inquest of 1972 is accepted as volume A, that is the first document. Yes,
thank you, my lord.
Just a minute before you do, I noticed that there are some people who are standing up there and there are seats somewhere here. Can some of the people of the media please move forward to allow people to come in?
Maybe I think we should find out if this is I need a copy of that, of Mr. Pretorius's address. I need a copy of that. Sure.
Captain, we were busy. A copy of the original inquest record. We handed that now and ask you about annexes to the J56. Could you obtain any annexes, affidavits from the policeman?
My lord, there is a copy of the J56, Exhibit A to YY. This is mostly of statements of the police officials that is involved at that stage.
My lord, I would ask if the court would allow me that this be accepted as volume B, that contains all the annexes and the exhibits.
Yes. Mr. Van?
No objections, Your Honor.
It is so accepted.
Thank you, my lord. I take it that you did search for the original inquest record.
Yes, my lord. These historical papers officers were contacted and it was established that they are not in possession of the missing documents. The family's legal representation, representatives, as well as Mr. Imtiaz Ghazi, a family member of Ahmed Timol who wrote the book and did a great deal of research into his death, was approached, and they also confirmed that these documents were not available. Inquiry was also made at the South African National Archives, who also confirmed the inquest records are not available.
How much of the information is missing?
Just the first 652 pages of the real inquest of this one.
First 652? Yes.
Thank you, my lord. I want to take you back to the archives. Did you obtain any authorizations for the destruction of these records? Did you obtain anything like that?
do so, my lord. The archive supplied a document from the Department of Justice dated on 86/06/13, authorized for the submission of all inquest registers and files. A copy of that is attached to my affidavit extension.
My Lord, while we are at his affidavit, for the benefit of the court and all the parties, a bundle was constituted of all the statements that will be used during this sitting with the affidavits of the witnesses and the annexes, my Lord. I beg leave to end up this as volume C with all the statements.
Are these the witnesses from the previous hearing?
No, the witnesses in this reopened inquest, my Lord.
Oh, I see.
All the witnesses is here and on what their basis. We've constituted a volume, a bundle with all their statements and all their annexes, and we've numbered it from one so that everybody can follow. So I would ask that that be accepted in the meantime as volume C, my Lord.
Yes. Mr. Vani,
my Lord, I can confirm that that bundle was compiled in collaboration with my instructing attorneys, and we have no objections.
But is this bundle representative of all the witnesses who testify, or would there still be others?
My Lord, there will still be others, and as their statements are finalized, we will submit them.
Okay, fine. We'll accept that in the meantime.
Thank you, my Lord. So your statement is contained in volume C, and the specific authorization for the destruction we'll find on page 5 to 12. Is that not so? Did you make any inquiries at the Johannesburg Magistrate Court for the inquest record?
My Lord, the request was also made to the Johannesburg Magistrate Court for assistance to trace the inquest. They could not manage to trace any records in their inquest. Copy of their document attached to my LHB.
So you've got a letter confirming that situation?
That is so.
And that's on page 13 and 14, specifically of volume C. Okay, I want to move over the police officials and the officials involved in the original inquest. Did you proceed to trace the whereabouts of the police officials that were involved in the investigation of the Ahmed Timol matter?
With assistance of the African Police Service archives, I proceed to trace the whereabouts of the police officials who were involved in the investigation of the Timol case, as well as other people who were involved in the inquest. I was able to establish that only 3 of the 23 policemen that was involved is still alive. I can, with the permission of the court, proceed to read the names of the people.
It can assist us, Captain, if you can tell us exactly who you did find and who is deceased and who's still alive. It can assist the court, please.
Yes, before you do that, when you say this, we're investigating the case of Mr. Timol, which case are we referring to? The inquest at that time, or the case coming out of the detention of Mr. Timol? Which one?
Both.
Oh, both, okay. Yes, you can proceed now.
It was established that Sergeant Klein is deceased.
Incidentally, the rank that you are referring, it was the rank at that stage?
At that stage.
Yes.
Yes.
Constable Timmy's deceased. Lieutenant Van Wyk deceased. Captain Bean deceased. Warrant Officer Els, he's still alive.
Can I stop you just there, Captain? Warrant Officer Els, what was his involvement at that stage? Can you recall offhand?
My Lord, Warrant Officer Els was called to the Newsroom police station where he identified the documents that was found in the car driven by Mr. Aesop, and he identified that as the communist documents, and then he called the head office of the security council for assistance.
Sorry for interrupting. So that's Warrant Officer Els. Can you continue, please?
Captain van die Kerk, deceased. Captain Roy, deceased. Warrant Officer Liebenberg. Sergeant Rodriguez, he's still alive.
I'll come back to Sergeant Rodriguez later in your evidence. Please continue.
Warrant Officer Schoon, deceased. Then warrant officer Janssen van Rensburg could not trace him, my lord. Was it available? Could not trace him at all.
So you don't know if he's alive or if he's okay?
There's a Lieutenant Russ, he's deceased. Sergeant Bauer, deceased. Sergeant Lowe, deceased. Renier Patel, deceased. Warrant Officer Deisel, deceased. Sergeant Fourie, still alive.
What was his role? Can you remember that?
My lord, he was an assistant curator at the State Nursery. He received the body of Ahmed Timol at the nursery. Then there's a warrant officer from the murder, unknown, couldn't trace his whereabouts. Major Fick, deceased. Major General Boyce, deceased. Captain Fourie, deceased. Captain Dirker, deceased. Colonel Grijden, deceased. That is the police officers involved. That's it.
We already heard that the father and the mother of Ahmed Timol are deceased. You also got Mr. Khan there.
Mr. Khan, he was an undertaker, he's deceased. Dr. Kemp, district surgeon, deceased. Dr. Skippers, the government pathologist, deceased. Dr. Glucksman is the private pathologist for the family, he's deceased. As well as the pathologist operating for the state, Mr. Professor Koch, who is also deceased.
You also established about the presiding officer.
My lord, it was established that the presiding officer, Magistrate J.J.L. de Villiers, is deceased. He's also the advocate who presented the state, Mr. S. Elsevier, is still alive. And then the state advocate, Mr. P.A.J. Kotze, could not establish any information.
Okay, already as referred to by the court, Captain, there was a submission made to the NPA officers by the firm Weber and Wenzel. Advocate George Bezos was also there, Frank Dutton, Howard Varney was there. And were you provided with the representations made by Weber and Wenzel? When was that, more or less?
That was February 2016.
Okay. Did you conduct an interview with Dr. Salim Esop?
Indeed, sir, my lord, the interview was conducted with Mr. Esop.
Time frame? When was that, more or less?
October 2016, my lord.
Okay. Did you obtain an affidavit of Dr. Salim Esop?
Indeed, sir, my lord, the affidavit was obtained from Mr. Esop through these attorneys, Weber and Wenzel.
Okay, and what happened then?
Well, after conducting the interview with Mr. Esop and studying his affidavit, Advocate Pretorius and myself came to the conclusion that there was compelling evidence necessitating the opening of the inquest in the interest of justice. A memorandum was then, in this regard, was drafted and handed over to the National Director of Public Prosecutions for a decision.
The inquest was reopened after that.
Yes, sir, my lord, the inquest was reopened.
Did you consult with any witness in regard to this reopened inquest, Captain Nel? Did you see any witnesses?
Yes, my lord, I did consult with old security branch members. I consulted with Mr. Paul Erasmus, Mr. Lou Venter, Mr. William Smith, and Joe Nyampule. They all worked at the security branch during those days.
Just coming back to Mr. Paul Erasmus, was that in relating to strategic communications?
Indeed, sir, my lord.
Did you do any inquiries about the SAP's printing mill?
My Lord, particularly Walter Troy was interviewed to establish if the SAP's printing mill was used to print documents that could be used as a negative propaganda by the state to frame its enemies.
In general, did you do some research and read some books to get the background in regards to this investigation, Captain?
Yes, my Lord, as part of my investigation into the Timol matter, I studied the TRC report on the death of Ahmed Timol. I studied the following SA law reports: Timol and Denella versus Magistrate Johannesburg, State versus ESOC and another. Also read the following published books: No One to Blame by George Bezos, and Timol, A Quest for Justice by E.T.S. Kaji, as well as Detention and Torture in South Africa by Don Foster, with Dennis Davis and Diane Sounder. Newspaper reports about the arrest of Ahmed Timol and Salim Esop, as well as newspaper reports the death and inquest of Timol and the torture of Esop were studied.
While you're at the newspaper reports, my Lord, I think it's apt time that we can possibly hand in. There was also volumes made of the newspaper reports, both of 1971 as well as newspaper reports of 1972. I beg leave of this court to hand them in as volume D, that's the newspapers of 1971, and the newspapers of 1972, I beg leave that we hand that in as volume E, my Lord.
Your Lordship, we have no objections, and again, my attorneys did collaborate with the prosecutors in the compilation. I can draw to your attention to the fact that we have discovered further press clippings. We're currently studying those to see how relevant they are, and if we deem them to be particularly relevant or interesting for the court, we will submit them in a volume to you.
Yes, thank you. Well, the documents are then admitted as for volume D and E as part of the record.
Thank you, my Lord. Right. Did you have anybody that was assisting you with some research, any grouping at the NPA that helped you with your research?
Yes, my Lord. The research is done on the Ahmed Timol website, and the missing persons task team of the National NPA was also tasked to assist with research in this matter.
Right. I also want to ask you, did you obtain any files from the Department of Justice?
My Lord, the Department of Justice files of 20 people that were arrested as a result of the arrest, interrogation of Ahmed Timol and Salim Esop were accessed to the African National Archives and studied. A total of 54 files were studied. The following persons were arrested as they form part of the Timol's so-called main unit, assisted the Communist Party in South Africa. With your permission, I can read the 22 people's names as arrested, was part of the main unit.
How many people are there?
22.
22, okay.
Please, that we understand how many people were arrested. I see you refer to 54 people. Don't all of them, if you can just refer to the 23 that was part of the main unit, just for the record.
Ahmed Timol, Salim Esop, Fatima Esop, Kantilo Mike, Amina Desai, Yusuf Garga, Mohammed Moniat, Yunus Patel, Hassan Duma, Dulshan Jetam, Mohammed Dinaf, Khadija Shochia, Cheril Arif, Muhammad Matthews, Cornelius Lekpole, David Davis, Fatima Wadi, Indrasen Woodley, Mohammed Esop, Bulbulia Ishna, Yaqub Farashia, and Ahmed Timol.
So you obtained the files and you made copies of them?
All the files was obtained, but the copies wasn't made. It's a huge amount. It's available for viewing.
Did you make copies of some of the files?
My Lord, indeed, some of the files it was requested by Mr. Barney was made and handed over to them.
Tell me, Captain Nel, did you ever visit Johannesburg Central Police Station, the old John Foster? Did you ever visit there?
My Lord, the old John Foster Square was visited to identify the officers and Ahmed Timol and Sadiq Esop were interrogated for which office Timol fell from his death. It was also of importance to identify other places Sadiq Esop mentioned in his affidavit.
Was there official photographer there? Was any album constituted while you did the visit to John Foster?
So my Lord, the second visit was undertaken to John Foster Square. Mr. Esop to the police station, pointed out the officers he was hold, and as well as the officers where he was tortured. The local criminal record center did make a photo album and the map floor plan of the officers.
My Lord, I think that can be of a big assistance, and once again, I beg leave to hand in the photo album of John Foster, or then specifically with the plans also, if we can hand that in as volume F. Volume F, my Lord. It can be of assistance during the proceedings.
Yes. Yes, the photo album is accepted as volume F.
Thank you, my Lord. Just to conclude and finalize your evidence specifically, did you see any witness in the Drakensberg area?
My Lord, the interview was conducted and then affidavit taken from Mr. Eddie Mathis, an advocate who was at John Foster Square, declaring himself in a court case, and saw the body of Timol fall past the window of the officers he was working with.
My Lord, just to help you, it's item 6 of volume C. Item 6 of volume C, it's pages 180 to 120. That is the statement of Ernest Mathis, Advocate Ernest Mathis, that was taken. To the fact of Joao Radicus. Initially, you thought he was also deceased, and at a late stage, you found out he's still alive. Not so.
That's correct, my Lord. Investigation, I thought he was dead, but then I was informed by the attorneys that he's still alive. I went to meet him on the 16th of June this year.
You didn't take a further affidavit, not so?
No.
There's just another matter before I conclude with your evidence. It's a document that's going to become of importance in this case, and that's the Inquest of the 2nd of February 1972. With the aid of others, could you locate that specific document, the Inquest of 2nd February 1972, number 2?
Yes, my Lord. If we get down with Barney, the advocate from the family handed the document to us. But because I'm also the investigating officer in the inquest of Neil Agate, I was also able to trace the same document, the inquest document of Neil Agate.
My Lord, you will find that document on page 15 to 21 in volume C, in your volume C, annexure to this witness's affidavit, page 15 to 21 in volume C. That concludes my evidence, Chief. Thank you, my Lord.
Much, thank you. You want to have anything to say to the witness?
Lord, just a few questions for clarification.
We are approaching the adjournment. Would you like to take proper instructions, or you want to? How many questions are you going to ask? Do you have an idea how long we're going to be here?
My Lord, perhaps we should take the adjournment so I can take those instructions.
Yes, take instructions, and then when we come back, you'll proceed.
As the court pleases.
Yes. Captain, you will be back here at 11:30. We'll continue with your evidence. Okay. We are adjourned until 11:30.
All right.
Well, there you have it. That's the second inquest into the death of political activist Ahmed Timol that started in the Johannesburg High Court today. They're going to continue a little bit later. It's more than 45 years after his death. As you can recall, Timol died in apartheid-era police custody here in Johannesburg at the John Foster Square in October 1971. We'll take a short break. We'll be back right after that with your headlines.
If you asked the British how they felt about being the biggest cider drinkers in the world, they'd say something like this. Yes. Well, we don't know about you, but that sounds like a challenge. Challenge accepted.
Get a six-pack of Savannah Premium Cider Dry or Light 330ml handies for only $56.99 from Tops at Spar.
The Pan-African Parliament, as a legislative body, could go a long way in continuing to promote women's rights in all African member states.
Moon will be elected president. A decisive win by him will provide much-needed stability in South Korea.
The Deputy President and the SADC Oversight Committee have been mandated to convene a multi-stakeholder national dialogue before elections.
5 teams are trapped in the relegation mud. These include Bloemfontein Celtic, 12th on the log, followed by Chipa United, Free State Stars and Baroka, who are second from the bottom, as well as Highlands Park, who have won only 4 matches.
We're on point with breaking stories, detailed economy and sport. Tune into Midday Report every Monday to Friday from 12 p.m.
Not being your headlines, we're going straight into this story. That second inquest into the death of the political activist Ahmed Timol has started in the Johannesburg High Court. It's more than 45 years after his death. Now, he died in apartheid-era police custody in October 1971. The police said that he'd committed suicide by jumping from the 10th floor of the Johannesburg Central Police Station, and then it was known as the John Foster Square. The inquest at the time found no one was to be blamed for his death. Among those expected to testify, Advocate George Bezos and Dr. Salim Isop. Timol had been arrested along with Isop by the state police after being caught with ANC and SACP literature. So later on, we'll go back to court to find out what will transpire. The African National Congress in Gauteng has opted to stay out of the ANC succession battle for now. The provincial leadership didn't put forward any name for the party's next president at its policy conference held over the weekend in Pretoria. The chairperson of Gauteng, ANC, Paul Mashatile, congratulated the members for their discipline in not discussing the leadership of the ANC.
Not like it's a Q&A, isn't it?
Gauteng ANC chairperson Paul Mashatile says they will continue to discuss the leadership of the ANC with other provinces to ensure a consensus is reached by December. He said the Gauteng ANC did not discuss or propose possible leaders for the ANC.
It has come to my attention that somebody was tweeting that the PEC came to this conference to present the name of Deputy President Ramaphosa, but were defeated by branches. Now, Let me make it clear to everybody to know that this conference was not for that. There is no name of anybody that was presented and defeated by conference.
Deputy Chairperson of Gauteng ANC and Premier of Gauteng, David Makura, said they discussed the reorganization of the ANC to ensure its moral integrity and that it survives into the future.
What's clear is that the status quo will not remain. If the ANC is to live up to the expectations of our people to give leadership to every sector of society, we have to reorganize the headquarters first and foremost. And then reorganize the organization at every level.
Both Mashatile and Makura said the focus of the conference was to discuss policies that will help residents of the province regain their faith in the ANC.
Meanwhile, the African National Congress in KwaZulu-Natal says it does not subscribe to the assumption that a deputy president should automatically become the president. This came out of the Provincial General Council, which ended in Empangeni yesterday. The province will lead the largest delegation to the ANC's December conference. One of the key resolutions at the weekend's PGC was about land reform.
We are firm on land expropriation without compensation. As an approach to achieve this, we are going to engage that the ANC should lobby all African parties in Parliament to review the constitution of the country. If that fails, we can thereafter go for a referendum.
Dignitaries and head of state are expected to attend the memorial and funeral services of the late former Botswana President Sir Masire this week. The memorial service will be held in the capital Gaborone on Wednesday, followed by a state funeral at Kanyi on Thursday. Sir Masire died last week at the age of 91.
President Ian Khama met the Masire family to discuss funeral arrangements. On Tuesday, his body will lie in state at Parliament ahead of his state funeral at his home village of Kanye on Thursday. A memorial service is planned for Wednesday in Gaborone.
Police are working alongside with the military because it's a state funeral with the Marafe, the tribe in Kanye, of course, church leaders, protocol, foreign affairs, etc., etc. So it's a multitasking, multi-group effort.
It is Masire who suggested a two-term presidency in Botswana, which led to his decision to step down the following year.
He played a pivotal role in fostering democracy, in nurturing it, and encouraging the growth and development of political parties in this country. It was under his reign that many democratic electoral reforms were carried out.
He actually voted himself out of office. He introduced a two-term presidency in 1997, and in 1998 he voluntarily stepped aside from the presidency. So quite clearly you're talking about the Democrat, a reformist, a constitutionalist.
Former South African President Thabo Mbeki is one of the dignitaries expected to attend Sir Masire's funeral. Solofelo Matibedi, SABC News, Gaborone, Botswana.
Now you, as members of the public, have 4 days left to nominate persons to serve on the new permanent SABC board. The deadline for nominations is Friday. The SABC is currently being overseen by an interim board for a period of 6 months. It was appointed after the former board was officially dissolved in March, following the outcome of a parliamentary inquiry into its fitness to hold office. Nominees will undergo a shortlisting process followed by interviews. The successful 12 candidates will be appointed by the President after the final approval of the National Assembly. The countdown has started for the Mandela climbers heading for Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. The group hopes to summit Africa's highest peak, Uhuru, on July the 18th. That's on Madiba's birthday. They had their final preparation stint in the Drakensberg over the weekend. The aim is to raise funds for sanitary pads for needy girl children.
The majestic Drakensberg,
any hiking enthusiast's dream, and the final hurdle for these trekkers. The Drakensberg is an ideal training ground for climbers to test their physical endurance. The 24-kilometer hike will take them to an altitude of about 3,000 meters above sea level. It will also gauge for possible symptoms of mountain sickness. The picturesque tourist trail, deceptive. Several grueling high-intensity snags, their fitness and stamina tested.
It was very easy. It was like, I remember when the first time I came to Drakensberg, it was so difficult.
We were at such an incline, and just trying to get a grip on your, every step was pretty tough.
Junkie Chris Dippenaar is pushing boundaries.
I am courageous.
His skilly attempt will require even more skill and endurance.
Ek vir die ouens gevra het gesê luister hierso kan ek my fiets Kilimanjaro toe vat.
I asked the guys if I can take my bicycle to Kilimanjaro. They looked at me weirdly. I researched if one can do it, and it is possible. After much persuasion, I am carrying my bike up the mountain and riding it down.
Mense se arms draai het ons op die einde van die dag gaan ek my fiets opdra Kilimanjaro toe en ek gaan hom afry.
This year's trek will be dedicated to race driver Guguzulu, who died while trying to summit last year. His widow, Letseho, is climbing in his honor.
It's an incomplete journey. So that's why I'm going back. I'm going back to do something that Gugu and I always wanted to do as a couple. To honor him. You know, the best way I can honor him is to continue living and living up to our dreams.
The group will be departing on the 12th of next month. Gillian Pillay, SABC News, Drakensberg.
You can also support the trek. Let's go to the United States now. Beyoncé came out tops at this year's BET Awards in Los Angeles. The Lemonade star, who skipped this year's ceremony after giving birth to twins a week ago, won 4 on the night, including Album of the Year. Bruno Mars walked off, or probably danced off, with 2 wins, including Best R&B Pop Artist and Video of the Year, while a 24-year-old rapper from Chicago was honored with the BET's annual humanitarian award. Sherwin Bryce Peace was at the ceremony and sent us this report.
Well, about a 4-hour-long ceremony of the BET Awards here in Los Angeles ended a short time ago, and because BET has exclusive rights to the ceremony and the visuals, we're unable to show you video from inside the ceremony, so I'm going to try my best to give you a summary of who won what, when and how. The big winner on the night was Beyoncé. Beyoncé had 7 nominations. She walked away with 4 awards: Best Female R&B Pop Artist, the Viewer's Choice Award, her Video of the Year Award, and the Album of the Year for Lemonade. Bruno Mars, the most successful male on the night, winning 2 awards after having 4 nominations, including Best Male R&B Pop Artist. Bruno Mars, of course, also opening the show. Quite an extravagant performance, as he's becoming famous for. The best group went to Migos. The best male hip-hop artist went to Kendrick Lamar. The best female hip-hop artist to Remy Ma. The best new artist went to a very young rapper from Chicago, Illinois, Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper also scooping the humanitarian award handed out. That award, of course, going to Jesse Williams last year. This year to Chance the Rapper for the work he's doing in trying to uplift communities in the inner city of Chicago. He donated a sum of $1 million for after-school programs for poor children in the Chicago region. So, in the Chicago region. So, a wonderful tribute to a 24-year-old musician who was inspiring a number of the older entertainers in the room. Of course, the BET Awards are not only focused on music, they also focus on film and entertainment, sports. The Best Actress Award going to Tarajai P. Henson. The Best Actor Award going to Mahershala Ali. Mahershala Ali, of course, also winning the Best Supporting Oscar earlier this year for his role in the movie Moonlight. The Sportswoman of the Year to the pregnant Serena Williams. Serena Williams, of course, taking a break from playing tennis, former #1 in the world, or current #1 in the world, taking a break as she nurses the baby inside her belly. The best act from Africa, just to recap, of course, going to Nigerian sensation Wizkid. This is his third BET award. The best act from Europe going to Stormzy. And of course, our very own Yvonne Chaka Chaka walking away with the global good honor that was given to her early Saturday morning. A number of performances that we can reflect on, among them Bruno Mars, as I mentioned, Mary J. Blige. You know, the BET Awards is very much a concert as much as it is an award ceremony. DJ Khaled, Chris Brown bringing the house down, Future performing, and the icon Maxwell also performing tonight. There was also a heartwarming tribute to some of the artists who died in the last year, including a warm tribute to George Michael. And then the Lifetime Achievement Award went to a group called New Edition, making a name for themselves in the 80s with songs like Popcorn Love, Mr. Telephone Man, Candy Girl, just an awesome tribute to them. The BET Awards also like to reflect on political commentary and social justice, and there was certainly enough of that in the room, reflecting on injustice, police brutality in the United States, particularly directed at minority communities, and also a moment of silence for those who have died due to brutalization in the United States. So clearly a broad spectrum of music, entertainment and political commentary here at the BET Awards, and hopefully that gives you a good sense of what happened inside the arena. Of course, exclusive rights to BET that will broadcast the entire show in South Africa on Tuesday night on their channel at 8 p.m. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, Los Angeles.
Let's stay with that story. The 17th Black Entertainment Awards, or BET Awards, has just ended in Los Angeles. And while the music takes center stage, the occasion is used to also shine a spotlight on issues of social as well as political consequences in the United States today. Our correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, caught up with a number of stars who walked the red carpet, including South Africa's own nominees and honorees, to talk about music, entertainment and politics.
Right now it's pretty hectic, man. There's so many people out here getting work done. We're doing a red carpet, meeting wonderful people, taking pictures. Everything's all good.
It's a wonderful opportunity to network with some big names in the music industry. How are you finding that? How are you traversing, you know, this new area in your life?
I'm excited. I'm just like honored to meet them, man, because it's definitely people that I'll need in the future, people that I could definitely work with, build healthy relationships with, you know, making great connections, man. I really love it.
What role do artists have in this kind of political environment we're living in the United States today?
I think it's just important to talk about our reality and not just the glamour of entertainment, you know? I know I did a song this time called Stand, and it's just saying if we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything. And I just felt like this is not the time to be silent, you know, as artists. And I think it's been exciting to see people that aren't used to being political just come up and, you know, be motivated to get involved.
Well, I think that this country right now, as much as people want to say it's divided, I think that we're all finding moments of, you know, coming together and bridging the gap. And I think that that's important. And I think a lot of people are using their voice when it comes to politics more so than years I've seen. So I'm happy about that. I do think that we need change immediately. You don't call me. You don't call me back. I text you. I'm just kidding.
What are you most looking forward to? Is this your first BET?
No, it's my third.
So what are you looking forward to? Because you kind of know what's going down tonight.
Yes, I am looking forward to DJ Khaled because, you know, he is performing and he usually brings all these cool people, and, you know, I'm very excited about that.
I'm a big fan. I mean, what season is Blackish in now?
This July, this season will be 4.
And the show is just growing and growing.
Thank you.
And it's an interesting name for a show in the current political environment that the United States finds itself in. Just speak to that, if you will.
Yeah, no, it's something that, like I've said so many times before, this show took off to a point where we didn't even know it was going to resonate like that, you know, and to touch so many different people and not make it a black show. It's just a show, you know, and for so many people to resonate with, it's been a blessing.
So you've got an album coming out soon? Tell us a little bit about that.
An album coming up in a week's time, and I'm just so grateful that everybody who's been listening to it really loves it, because I'm my West critic. It's been a couple of months I've been in the studio, and I just wanted it to be perfect.
Tell us a bit about some of the songs. I mean, what does it speak to? Is there a message?
Well, of course, my music always has message. One track that I love, well, I love all the tracks. There's 10 tracks. I've done a collaboration with Berita, a collaboration with Nomsa Mazwai, and Ali Kiba from Tanzania. There's one track that's called Pardon Me. It's inspired by that little girl who died in the sea. You know, so much has been happening to our people, and our people want to leave Africa and go to Europe, and they're shutting the doors on them. So I'm saying to them, pardon me, you know, give me a chance to live. Be my friend, hold my hand.
Welcome back. My name is Kendall Makamata, and it's time for the sport. Now, South Africa's women's pro team, the Proteas women, have won the opening match of the 2017 Women's World Cup hosted in England and Wales. Proteas survived a late fight back from Pakistan's bowlers to record a 3-wicket victory at Grace Road Cricket Ground in Leicester, England.
Heads is the call.
Looking to take advantage of the cloudy weather conditions, South African captain Danie van Niekerk won the toss and elected to field first. Labelled a team to beat in this tournament, South Africa wasted little time to get going, Marizane Cup with the first wicket of the contest in the second over. The Proteas women continue to impress with the ball, restricting Pakistan to a run rate of more than 3 runs per over halfway through their innings. Things did not get any better for Pakistan, losing 3 wickets in a space of 8 overs, including that of Bibi Nahida, to leave them on 163 for 6 after 42 overs. Pakistan went on to add 43 more runs to finish their innings on 206 runs for the loss of 8 wickets after 50 overs. Just like with the ball, South Africa impressed with the bat, the opening pair of Laura Vulvard and Eliza Lee contributing more than 100 runs to South Africa's required target of 207, the latter scoring a half-century in the process. Shabnim Ismail scored 3 boundaries in the penultimate over as South Africa edged Pakistan in a close finish to open their campaign on a positive note. In their next match, South Africa will take on New Zealand on Tuesday. Joseph Mohali, SABC News.
Now, for that story that I've been promising you all morning, it's a pity that Eben Janssen is not here to witness this, but SuperSport United have defended their Nedbank Cup and become the first team to do so in the PSL era. Matsatsantsa Pitoli beat Orlando Pirates by 4-1 in the final at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Here are the match highlights.
Respect United,
yes.
And this is Professor Ronnie Sloss.
Yes.
So Mango's inside. They head up on Brocky! A super spotter disappearing! Second goal of the night.
It's not for strikers. It should have been headed it
Palace
better.
done well to go beyond. Pungwa, who's still going strong. SuperSport United wanting to add the third. Deflection, and yes! It's Bradley Grobler's brace!
Best post. What a finish.
SuperSport United are having a ball tonight. Worst years, you would say. Pala.
Look at
Chance
that.
for Gata! It's 4-0.
Again, Pala is involved.
Game, set, and match. The coach and captain of the side in SuperSport United are the Nedbank Cup champions of 2016-2017 and a celebration of their 10th year as a sponsors, but they have been dominant for the night.
Upamanyisa did score a goal for Pirates. It was a penalty, but it hardly made any difference to that result. Moving on and staying with football news, Germany and Chile are through to the semi-finals of the ongoing 2017 FIFA Confederations Cup in Russia. The South American champions played out to a 1-1 draw against Australia in Moscow. All this as the world champions Germany fielding a developmental side was still too good for Cameroon, beating them 3-1 to advance to the semis as Group B winners.
There were tributes for Cameroon's Marc Vivien Foe, who died after collapsing on the field in the 2003 Confederations Cup. Cameroon needed to win by 2 clear goals to have a slight chance of advancing to the semi-finals. But the young German side was also keen to consolidate their qualifying position. Germany came out guns blazing in the second stanza.
He goes on to his right foot and he scores! And Germany lead in Sochi. It's a special moment for Kerem Demirbay.
As if that was not bad enough for the Africans, they were reduced to 10 men.
Dan thought he said, but Magbuka on review gets a straight red card.
Moments later, Germany extended their lead.
Werner diving to head it, and Timo Werner does exactly that. Germany lead 2-0.
Cameroon, however, pulled one back.
Ter Stegen has missed it. Out of nothing, Cameroon get on the score sheet. A rare and wonderful thing, Abubakar.
At the other end, Werner restored the 2-goal cushion. The star-studded Chile clashed against Australia, looking to go through to the semi-finals as Group B winners. And the Aussies, on the other hand, were eager to spoil the party and push for a knockout spot.
Must be! It is an Australian lead! Right on half-time!
They took the 1-0 lead to half-time. In the second half, Chile restored parity.
And nudged down and smuggled in!
After that, Chile went all out for the jugular, but in vain. The final score, Chile 1, Australia 1. Mtutuzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
And Springboks have wrapped up the media incoming tour against France with an emphatic 3-0 series whitewash. Running in 4 unanswered tries, the Boks were 35-12 winners. And that they sealed the deal at Ellis Park, where victory against the French has proved elusive up until now, makes it all the sweeter.
Coach Alistair Coutier made 4 changes to his starting lineup as they were looking for their first win against France at Ellis Park Stadium. Bok prop Ruan Dreyer made his debut for South Africa, while Francois Hogart and outside centre Jesse Kriel both returned to the starting lineup. Also in the starting lineup was Jean-Luc Dupré, who took the place of the injured Opa Mohoje. Organisers were hoping that Ellis Park will be filled to capacity, and the crowd did not disappoint. Unfortunately, the Boks captain Warren Whiteley did not feature in the match due to a groin injury. The home side started well with a well-taken penalty from the boot of Elton Yankees before Kriel scored the first try of the match. But France reduced the deficit after scoring 2 penalties. Yankees scored another penalty to make it 13-6 midway through the first half. South Africa led 16-9 at half-time. The home side increased their lead early in the second half with another try by Eben Ezebeth. Then Malcolm Marx scored South Africa's 3rd try of the match to make it 26-12. The best try of the match came from Rudy Page with only 5 minutes remaining on the clock to take the game away from the visitors. Sfiso Ramara, SABC News.
Right, now we are going back to that inquest that's being held at the Johannesburg High Court about the death of anti-apartheid political activist Ahmed Timol, to find out what exactly was the cause of his death. Let's go there live right now.
Captain Victor, the investigating officer